Good afternoon, all. Neil Francois, good afternoon, sir. Always present. Rookman Gangadine, hi, Rookman. Sidika O'Brien, pleasant good afternoon to you as well. Gabriel Philip. 29 Super C. Michelle Robinson. Nicola McNichols, my good friend. Altia 1, good afternoon to all of you. Claire Carrington, hi, Claire. Margaret Thomas. Nicola is asking which Parang song you guys like for the season. I think the leading Parang song, Nicola, is Ninja's Pensioners Anthem. Spend your money, bend your back. Don't let arthritis keep you back when you're dancing. If you don't know it, pull it up on YouTube. See, you need to add that one to your list, Nicola. Christopher Coffey, good afternoon. Jennifer Nicholas, Leon Graves. Hi, Diane. Kurt Dalzine, good afternoon. Adarami X, Marlene Panton, Wazid. Sarah Richards. Andre Gaskin, good afternoon to all of you guys. David McCarthy, Natalie F, Susan Cadogan, Beverly Jones, hi. Ms. McNichols, I missed you last Sunday at Tuco's training. Right, it's not missed. It's a little bright. So a lot has happened over the last few days, folks. It's almost as if this present government wants me to do a live almost every day. If you want to keep up with everything that is happening, probably need to do that. Probably have multiple lives in one day. Never a dull moment, right? So there were a few things. So Trini Bree is asking she would like to know where the government got the money to pay public servants. So that is a very good question. Trini Bree, as you know, they indicated that they would be the new salaries are supposed to start in January. And with respect to the back pay, that they would have paid an advance on the back pay, a portion, to the public servants. And the balance is supposed to be paid non-cash instruments, so which most likely might be bonds carrying different tenures, probably 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't know. I don't know if public servants will accept 20-year bonds. Might depend on what the coupon is, the dividend is on those bonds. But so there were two things. The Minister of Finance would have indicated in the budget that once an agreement was had between the CPO and the Public Services Association, that he would then have discussions with the Republic Bank and the National Insurance Board to come up with solutions to paying this liability. We haven't really heard anything about those discussions. What we do know is that the government is leaning heavy on its directorship on the boards of the two banks that the state owns, First Citizens Bank and Republic Bank. In fact, this week it was announced that the new government directors on the board of Republic Bank were named, and the chairman is, I believe, the brother of the late Hafiz Karamath, Mr. Karamath, who was the owner of the Salcott, and as well the contractor who would have built the Brian Lara Cricket Academy. We would know that, or may recall, that sometime after Mr. Karamath would have passed, Police would have raided a house in Valsine belonging to Mr. Karamat's son and other relatives, where they would have found a significant amount of drugs and guns and ammunition and the like. Not imputing any improper motives or, against the gentleman who is now the chairman of Republic Bank, but based on what I have seen and read on social media, some of the comments under the story, persons are in fact concerned, not just about his appointment as chairman, but when we do a comparison with other persons who would have served as chairman of Republic Bank, Mr. Pereira, who just demitted the position. We've had persons like former managing director Ronald Harford, who would have also served in that position as well. And I say I don't know much about Mr. Karamath, but needless to say, because of the challenges that would have occasioned some of his family members before, persons are concerned. And persons who are in the know in finance have expressed their concern as well over the fact that Republic Bank is perhaps one of the most well-run, if not the best, the most well-run bank in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. And that is in large measure because the bank or the government, notwithstanding the fact that the government has had majority shareholding ever since 2008, 2009, the financial crisis that resulted in the collapse of CL Financial, which was the previous owner, holder of the majority shareholding. By and large, the government has refrained from interfering in the day-to-day operations and the management of Republic Bank. They have instead relied on the capabilities and the skill set of persons who would have distinguished themselves across a number of different fields, persons who are experts in their various fields, and who would have been able to bring that expertise to bear on the management of the bank, absent any significant contribution from the state. It seems this administration is not inclined to maintain that particular line, and they would like to exert greater influence. I have spoken to staff at the bank, some of my former colleagues, because I did work at Republic Bank for a few years, and they have expressed concerns with this latest development. Customers have also expressed concerns. Corporate clients have also expressed concerns with what is going on, and so they're just waiting to see how this plays out. So it's interesting. The Minister of Finance, when it was announced a couple of days ago that the back pay advances were paid, and also salaries for December were paid. So given that the new salaries are supposed to start in January, right? So salaries would have been paid, and he was most upset when the media contacted him for confirmation, and he did confirm that the advances on back pay was paid and salaries were paid. And he asked the question, so do you still think the media is unbiased because salaries were paid early, as is the norm, the advances on the back pay was paid, and he's upset that the media didn't report that wasn't a big front page story. Because for them it's all about plaudits. For them it's all about lights, camera, promise made, promise kept, promise delivered, pat on the back, seeming to forget that you all were elected to do a job. Now, when the PNM was in power and the PNM did anything that one might say is deserving of commendation, applause, the supporters of the UNC were quick to say, why give them applause for? Why we commending them? That's their work. That's what they're getting paid to do. That's why they were elected. So, but now, these same hypocrites, every little thing that the UNC does, they want to give them praise for it, and particularly their dear leader, the goodly Prime Minister, who is once again making the news, and not in a very good way. And again, I ask the question, where is Ralph Maraj, the ambassador to CARICOM? Because if Dr. Rowley had said the things and taken the course of action that the Prime Minister has taken over the last couple of months and most recently as up to yesterday, based on a statement that was put out, Ralph Maraj would have written an article a long time. For the last 10 years, he dragged Dr. Rowley in his Sunday columns, right? Dr. Rowley could do nothing good in his eyes. And in 2018, when we had a similar situation with respect to the Venezuelan presidency, where an election was held and Nicolas Maduro was declared the winner, and there was doubt cast over the legitimacy of the election, and one gentleman by the name of Juan Guaido, who was at the time the leader of the opposition, declared himself the president of Venezuela. And you had a number of world leaders stepping forward and saying, yes, we recognize Mr. Guaido as the president of Venezuela. And Dr. Rowley did not take a similar position. In fact, he said, the government of Trinidad and Tobago will maintain a neutral stance, and whoever answers the phone when he calls Miraflores, whoever answers the phone in the presidential office is who he will recognize as president. And unless and until that person is Mr. Juan Guaido, the government of Trinidad and Tobago will continue to recognize Mr. Maduro. Much to the chagrin of the then U.S. ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, the late Joseph Mondelo, who made his feelings known, who expressed that he was disappointed that the government of Trinidad and Tobago chose to take such a position rather than to support other world leaders who were lining up behind Mr. Guaido, right? And I think Dr. Rowley would have responded to him. And since then, for the last 7 years, Ralph Maraj has made sure Dr. Rowley didn't forget that. And he spoke even just a couple months ago. He wrote an article about that. And again, talking about how, that under the last administration, the PNM administration, Trinidad and Tobago's relationship with the United States was at its worst, and that PNM administration would have damaged our relationship with the United States because of that one act. That one issue where Dr. Rowley basically said, listen, Trinidad and Tobago is a sovereign nation. We operate by a certain set of rules. The position of the government of Trinidad and Tobago is to maintain neutrality. All right, we are not going to tell anybody how they should do their business and the like. RAF didn't like that. UNC didn't like that. Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar came out and she declared UNC supports Juan Guaido. Where is Mr. Guaido today? When last did I hear that name? I think the last time I heard that name was maybe a few months ago, relative to the announcement of some charges or something that may have been brought against him. But that's about it. So history would have shown that Dr. Rowley and his administration were correct in the position that they would have taken. There were no apologies from the other side. So they come back again. And this has now become the flip-flop in government. Can't decide what is the story with respect to the radar. Can't decide what is the story with respect to the USS Gravely coming here a couple months ago, a few weeks ago. The story keeps changing. And we keep hearing it is about protecting the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the fight against narcotics and drug trafficking and human trafficking and so on. Meanwhile, we have a minister of government, a cabinet minister of government, as far as I know, is still under investigation for human trafficking and prostitution. The US is very interested in the outcome of those investigations. In fact, a few months ago, the US would have expressed concern over the slow pace of police investigations into that matter when they would have provided information to the state more than a year ago, probably about at least 2 years ago or so, identifying in their report from the State Department of the United States of America senior government officials who were involved in human trafficking and prostitution. And we would all recall the toing and froing between the then opposition and the then government as to who the US was referring to when they said senior government officials. And Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar would have made the statement, well, they said government officials, we are not in government, the UNC is not the government, so they couldn't be talking about us. And then the Prime Minister then, Dr. Rowley, had to let them know, well, based on what the report says, as the head of the National Security Council, I can tell you, reference to senior government officials includes members of the opposition, because the US sees government as the three branches, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And the UNC dug in their heels, as is Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar's modus operandi. She always doubles down and triples down. She doesn't She will never back down, right? So when she puts out a position, she sticks to it, no matter how she has to twist and turn the facts to suit her narrative. She maintained that they were not talking about members of her party, members of the opposition, but in fact members of the then PNM administration. And the then US ambassador, Candace Bond, had to intervene and give the definition, the US State Department definition of senior government officials. And as she told that government officials here speaks to members of parliament, whether you are on the government bench or you are on the opposition bench, right? That is how they consider government, the parliament. And when there was no answer from the other side with respect to that definition, what did we see happen? They accused Ms. Bond of being a PNM party hack. Yeah? She's talking for the PNM. All kind of nonsense. But yet still, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar is now the chair of the National Security Council, which means she has access to all the documentation that the US would have provided to the then administration. So if she still has any doubts as to who they were referring to, all she needs to do is to request the document. You in charge, you are the prime minister, you could do what you want, you could get whatever you want, whatever documentation you would like to get. It is available to you. Madam, you are in charge. You are El Capo de Tutti Capi, the boss of all bosses. Have you asked for that report? This wasn't produced by the PNM. This wasn't produced in Balize House. This is a report that was produced after, I imagine, whatever inquiries, investigations that were done by US authorities. A report that was generated by the US State Department. And since you're so in love now with the United States of America, well, one should. I mean, Marco is your boy. Pick up the phone and call him. He in charge of the State Department now. But nothing on that. Nothing pressing the police to. All of a sudden, the supporters of your party not talking about these things. It's just like the 2.6 billion missing. Ember thief, Rowley thief, the PNM thief, 2.6 billion unaccounted for. We are into the 8th month of their tenure. Have we heard anything about this missing 2.6 billion? The Privy Council say they're supposed to investigate him, but one lower lord asked the question, why isn't Mr. Imbert the subject of his own probe? She never said the police should investigate Mr. Imbert. She said Mr. Imbert has launched an investigation, a probe into the actions of the Auditor General. The Auditor General has made certain claims against Mr. Imbert, namely that he would have tried to bully her into accepting the amended report, the amended financials, and so on. And therefore, the law lord was of the view that we need to investigate these claims that were made by the Auditor General. Who should do the investigation? The very same team, investigative team that Mr. Imbert put together to investigate the actions of the Auditor General and her department. The law lord was saying they should inquire into as well whether or not there is any validity to the claims made by the Auditor General, that Mr. Imbert ought not to be exempt from his own probe. Never said nothing about police and DPP and all kind of thing, but the UNC supporters only here investigate. And that is where their minds went. And try all how to explain it to them. Waste of time, right? As I say, never argue with a fool because he'll beat you with experience. So I have learned that over the years. Never try to argue with a UNC supporter. Because when there is nothing left and they're facing the barrel of cognitive dissonance, they realize that what you're saying makes sense and they have no other response. They resort to the default position, HYMC, Holier, mother, so and so. That is what they always end up there, right? And from the time they reach their conversation done, because they have nothing else to say. They wouldn't read, they wouldn't take the time to do their research. They just run based on what they saw and kick out the PNM, what they heard the paid mouthpieces for the UNC say. People like, I don't even need to call names, all right? But there are certain influencers, if you want to call them that, on social media who talk for the UNC. And you need to listen to some of them, you need to take at least 10 Motrin, Advil, Panadol to listen to the rubbish that comes out of some of them also. And it's like, you for real? You serious? You actually did a live or a video to say this? I tell you, never a dull moment. But we will get to that shortly. So there were some stories, some things that happened over the last couple of weeks or so that, to my mind, went under the radar. It escaped some people. It didn't really receive the media attention or the public attention as it should have. And one of those was the rededication of the Couva Children's Hospital, right? This beloved project of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. For 10 years, we heard about how the wicked, evil Keith Rowley administration deprived the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago of the use of this hospital that the UNC built. And they did so simply because the UNC built it, and it was out of spite and vindictiveness that they refused to open the hospital. I am fully well aware that that hospital was in use, albeit it may not have been in full use, but it was being used. You all recall that for a time, during COVID, it was the main COVID hospital. A lot of people's lives would have been saved at that institution. And it is a good thing that it had been available for that purpose. And subsequent to COVID, I can tell you for a fact that the hospital was in use. My sister, who died 3 years ago, that is where she passed away, at the Couva Hospital. All right? From complications, diabetes-related complications, end-stage renal failure, and so on. But I had cause to visit this institution earlier on this year, prior to the general election, to have certain documents signed respective to the administration of my sister's estate. And when I got to the entrance, the security asked me, "Are you here to visit a patient?" I said, "No, I'm going to the administration." So the fact that the security could ask me if I'm here to visit a patient says to me that the hospital was in use and that persons were being treated at the hospital. And I don't think it would have been for COVID at the time, because I believe that the protocols, the quarantine protocols for COVID still stand. So, and then when I got there and I went into the lobby and I indicated to the receptionist why I was there, and she would have called the necessary department and asked me to have a seat. Someone will come to me shortly. And while I was sitting there, I looked upstairs and I saw orderlies pushing people in wheelchairs, persons in hospital gowns and so on, being wheeled in the wheelchair up and down the place. I saw staff there walking up and down the place. So it says to me that the hospital was in use, albeit limited use, as it is now, even though it has been rededicated there too. So we went from put us in office and we will open the Couva Children's Hospital, because this wicked, evil, oppressive PNM that refused to open the hospital just because it was built by the UNC, and we will open it, and you, the citizens, will have access to it. And so they did a big rededication ceremony. Plenty money spent. They had Christmas concert and all kind of thing to do this rededication, and tree lighting ceremony and all of that. And B-Mobile was there and all kind of bacana. Everything for them is a big show. Everything for them is a party, a big celebration. You open your commission a standpipe, that is cause for big celebration. Every little thing that they do. And so they had this big party, concert, Christmas concert, and what have you, down at the Couva Children's Hospital. They invited officials from other Caribbean nations. I think it was the Minister of Health or some senior official from the Ministry of Health in Guyana was there. And the Prime Minister would have made an announcement. Now, she indicated that while the hospital is open, it will be rolled out on a phased basis. So it is not every and anything you could go there for. So chances are, if you fall sick and you're living within that general catchment area, and you tell yourself, well, hey, we had a big Couva hospital, it's open now, and you go there, that they may tell you, well, you need to go to San Fernando because the services that you require is not available here. Yes, the hospital is open, but we are not fully open. So the services, those services are not yet being provided. Why? Because they don't have the staff. They don't have the complement of doctors, nurses, and other persons to operate the high-tech machinery that they're boasting about, that they bought, and it was just left there by the PNM to waste and to rot. So you have all this equipment there, but you don't have people who are trained to use it, to operate it. So it is just there. So according to the Prime Minister, the hospital will be opened on a phased basis. Everything is phased for them. They will pay the back pay in phases. They will reopen the refinery in phases. They will reopen the Cuba hospital in phases. Everything is phases, right? This is the phases government. So after all this at a grand affair and big thing, not much has changed at the Cuba Children's Hospital, right? Yeah? So the head of the Nurses Association, Mr. Edie Stewart, told them, he said, listen, it's not a good idea to open this hospital because I can tell you, you don't have the amount of nurses that you need, and the amount of nurses that you need is simply not available in the country. Almost all, or if not all of the public health institutions in this country are understaffed, short-staffed, right? Primarily because there is a lack of personnel to be able to fill some of these positions. You go on the newspaper, sometimes you go on social media and you see RHA is advertising a whole long list of vacancies. Whole long list of vacancies in almost every department. Why is that? The government said that they had the employee TT thing the other day, 20,000 vacancies available and they're going to fill everyone. And yet still, every day you're inundated, social media is inundated with persons who would have applied and asking, anybody get a call? They contact all yet? Anybody get a job? What going on? They make us fill out all these come and fill out forms and all kind of thing, application form, and up to now we can't get a call to come to an interview or nothing. What going on? Or you went to an interview, but you didn't hear nothing else since, and people are asking, what's happening? What's happening with these jobs? 20,000 jobs, over 100,000 people applied. But you know what? That over 100,000 persons, your information is now available to the government. So they now have your name, they have your address, they have your phone number, they have your email address and other information. So when time comes for election and they need to reach out and touch, it's very easy for them to do so. And I imagine that would be the primary use of all that information that you filled out on the application form, right? More so than you applying for one of 20,000 jobs, you and over 100, about 110,000 persons. So we know at least 90,000 of you will not get a call. 90,000 of you will not get a job, inclusive of the CPEP and URP workers, right? But why I raised that issue is because the Prime Minister made an announcement that she had discussions with this senior official from the Ministry of Health in Guyana. I think it may have been the minister, but I stand to be corrected. And that they had come to an arrangement where doctors from Trinidad would be sent to Guyana because Guyana's public health sector is now growing and they need doctors. And Trinidad stands ready to answer the call. And in the first instance, some 50 doctors from Trinidad would go to Guyana. And the Prime Minister made this announcement with great aplomb and to much applause from the support base of the United National Congress. And when you read the comments again on social media under the post, they're endorsing it, ringing endorsements. Oh, brilliant. Finally, a Prime Minister with vision. Not even a year in office, and she's already created jobs for all of these young doctors who have come out of school, come out of university, and they can't find a job and they're unemployed, and the Prime Minister has created an opportunity for them. Yes, the PNM couldn't do that. This is why we needed to have Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC in office to create these opportunities. Brilliant, wonderful. They're probably going to go, when they go to Guyana, more than likely they will get paid in US dollars. And that would help the country's forex situation because they will go to Guyana and they'll get the jobs and they will send money back. When they get paid in US, they're going to send some of that back home. And it's going to help to fix the forex. This is the logic of the United National Congress supporters, right? But when 5 years ago, Terence Deyalsingh, as the Minister of Health, would have done an interview on the morning show on TTT, which, by the way, is no more. I think last Friday was the last show. I don't know what is going to happen going forward, but the question is to be asked is, are we going to see more people unemployed? The production staff, the hosts of this morning show on TTT, which was supposed to be competing with the Morning Brew on CNC3 and the Morning Edition on TV6, right? Both privately owned. So many of you may not have been aware of that, but I would have tuned in on Friday morning and I saw they had a little parang send off the last show of the morning show on TTT. Right? So another casualty of when UNC wins, everybody wins. Let me see if I get this here. So give me 1 second. Let me find this here. Did I save that right? Just now one. Right. I know the thing about it and the hypocrisy and the support by members of the UNC, and it's not surprising. Anything that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa does, they will support, regardless to what. Right? Once their leader said it, it is worthy of being endorsed. Now, I highly doubt that Guyana wants interns. Students who have just left the hospital, just left university, have very little to no experience as medical practitioners. So they don't want Trinidad to send these neophytes, for want of a better word, to Guyana to use their citizens as guinea pigs. So more than likely what they want is, get this here. Let's see if I have this here. Okay. More than likely what they want is specialists, which we have a shortage of in Trinidad. Right? And that is why we have had to import specialists from places like Cuba and other parts of the world, because we have a shortage here. But I seem to have recalled reading an article where the Prime Minister indicated that specialists or the president of Guyana, in defending the decision, would have spoken to the fact that specialists from Trinidad would be coming to work in Guyana, in their public health sector. And I suppose they might take some nurses too, at the expense of our public health sector, which, as I said before, is currently understaffed. Just now, folks, let me just get this here. So. Give me 1 second. I thought I saved this. So, where is it? Doctors. Guyana. Right. Let me see if I get this here. Right. PM, Guyana's hospital expansion offers TNT doctors job opportunities. Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa yesterday announced that Guyana is undertaking major hospital construction and that very soon Trinidad and Tobago will be able to provide job opportunities for our medical practitioners in Guyana. It is a development, she said, will strengthen regional cooperation while expanding employment for local specialists. I wonder if Mrs. Prasad Bisesa remembers that Guyana is part of CARICOM. We commented that just now, based on her latest statement Prime Minister made the statement as she delivered the feature address at the Gift of Life Christmas treat and the official rededication of the Couva Children's Hospital. So let me get this here. Prasad Bisesa said the expansion of Guyana's health sector was timely, noting that Trinidad and Tobago was aggressively rebuilding its medical workforce and that regional opportunities would benefit both nations. As Guyana builds new hospitals, we will be ready with trained, qualified, compassionate professionals who can serve there while continuing to strengthen our own system. Right? So that's what trained, right? So your taxpayers' dollars were spent to send these doctors to university, to UE, those who would have availed themselves of GATE, those who would have gotten open scholarships and would have gone abroad, studied, Some of them would have probably done specialized in certain areas, and they had to come back home to Trinidad and Tobago. And now opportunities are going to open for them to go to Guyana, right? You know what upset me about that? The same UNC hypocrites. When Terence Darsing did his interview 5 years ago on the morning show on TTT, and the question was put to him about, brain drain. Doctors from Trinidad and Tobago who are leaving these shores and they're going abroad and looking for opportunities abroad because we don't have opportunities here. And he would have indicated, listen, we have a significant pool of persons who graduate every year as doctors, and we simply do not have capacity for all of these new people. What we are looking for right now is specialists. Okay? So not because 100 or 200 young people graduate as doctors every year means that we will be able to hire everybody. So you would have a level of brain drain. Some of them would look for opportunities outside. Some of them would go into the private sector. And while the interviewer would have asked him if he's not concerned about that, and he basically said, why should we be concerned? What is wrong with that? When you read the comments under that, man, they lick up Terence. That is what you call PNM donkey logic. Taxpayers' money spent to educate these people, and then now they're leaving our shores and going abroad and benefiting other countries at the expense of our taxpayers. Terence needs to drain his brain. He's an idiot. Nothing positive about that. They chastise the man for that statement that he made. What is wrong with some of our locals who have studied and have qualified as doctors because of the lack of opportunities here going abroad? They cost Terence good and proper. Now, they praise him. These are the same people who complained about brain drain. Even Mrs. Prasad Bisesa complained about brain drain. Something was wrong with our people leaving here and going abroad. They always like to talk about Singapore, and we should have been like Singapore. One of the things that Singapore exports is their human resource. They spend their money to educate their nationals and then send them abroad to get jobs. And when they make money, foreign currency, they send it back home to assist in the development of their country. But in this, because it was PNM, it was bad. But today, they're praising it. Oh, yes, great initiative on the part of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. So all of a sudden, brain drain is good. I've said before, the supporters of the United National Congress are some of the most dangerous citizens in this country. Most dangerous. Can't take a position at all. They need to take their leading from their leader. Right? Not so with the PNM, as we would have seen in the recently concluded general election. When they're upset with the leader, they know what to do. All right? And they do what they need to do. That is why we are in opposition today. When UNC wins, what's supposed to happen? Everybody's supposed to win, right? You all winning yet? How is that winning coming along? You got your 10%, promise made, promise kept, promise delivered. So from January, you'll be receiving your 2019 salary. No more complaints about us still working on 2013 salary. Great. Wonderful. You get a portion of your back pay. Excellent. For many of you all, that will be done by Carnival or before. Christmas will eat up a portion of it. And what is left over will be eaten up by all of the Carnival fetes. And because for each Carnival fete that you're going to, you need a new outfit. And you need to hit all the all-inclusives just to see that you were there and to take pictures for the gram so you could get the likes and the shares. Right? I was there. How much alcohol you could drink? CIC all-inclusive, general, $1,850, and I believe the VIP is $2,700. Tickets were sold last week, Saturday. Within less than an hour, sell out. In less than an hour. And people still calling and asking, you could get a ticket for me? I want to get a ticket for CIC all-inclusive. All right, so back pay money done, allocated for and spent. But that's all right. My school, my alma mater, we benefited. So we happy. If you could get a ticket, hey, purchase, please. QRC, same thing. Big money. All these all-inclusive fetes. Remember the price of liquor going up? So you have to pay for that. Because these people are not going to cut into their profits to buy premium alcohol to give you. No. So you had to pay for it. But anyway, I digressed. All right. So you get your 10%. All right, great. Let's remember from January, you'll be paying more in NIS. Your NIS rates go up. You will also, if it is that you're renting, you're likely to face an increase in your rent. When the landlord surcharge kicks in, you're likely to start paying more in terms of your bank fees, despite the fact the minister said that he instructed the central bank to ensure that the banks don't increase their fees. I don't know that the central bank has the power and authority to do that. You also have so that is the levy on the assets of the commercial banks, which will be coming into place. You already have the increase in the cost of alcohol, cigarettes, the new fines that are coming in place for certain traffic offenses. So they give you in one hand and they're likely to take it back in the other. Yes, there was a reduction in the cost of super, but if you don't have a car that uses super, you did not benefit. Even if you're a member of the traveling public, I have not heard any transportation organization say that they are going to reduce their fares because the price of super fell by $1. No taxi association, no maxi association, nobody. So you're still paying the same price for your transportation. So you did not benefit. So who really benefited? Even if your vehicle using super, did you really benefit? Because you're going to have to pay higher prices for some things. They remove that on 7,000 food items. Have you felt it? Many of you have already started doing your grocery shopping for Christmas. Have you seen a difference? Don't know it? I just ask it. Who winning? Who really winning? All right. I'm going to tell you who winning. On this week's edition of your size 12, choking on your size 12, Mr. Man who is unable to stay in his lane, despite the fact that the godly prime minister told him to do so. He seems unable to do that. So yesterday, he decided to do a live or a TikTok, because everybody wants to be TikTok famous. I'm not on TikTok. Just thought I would put that out there. So listen to Professor Foot in Mouth. He seems to have a significant affliction of foot in mouth.
I know the price. So Westmoreland North Residents Association talking about potholes in the road, but they live with them potholes under Rowley for 10 years and then turn around and vote for potholes when they vote for Hans Devines. But when I come on the WhatsApp thread and talk about potholes and ask where Mr. Fix-It, I drive into them same potholes and I wouldn't bother Jerlyn John about them potholes because I don't live with them potholes and then vote for potholes again. So you know what to do? Take pothole. So Westmoreland North Residents Association talking about potholes in the road, but they live with them potholes under Rowley for 10 years and then turn around and vote for potholes when they vote for Hans Devines. But when I come on the WhatsApp thread and talk about potholes and ask where Mr. Fix-It, I drive into them same potholes and I wouldn't bother Jerlyn John about them potholes because I don't live with them potholes and then vote for potholes again. So you know what to do? Take potholes.
Take potholes. Because all you vote for potholes. You all didn't vote for the UNC. All in Diego Martin West. You all went and vote for Hans Devines. Right? After 10 years of potholes, all you wasn't saying nothing. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Not so? This incompetent PAM government put us in office and we will fix everything. All the potholes we will patch and pave the roads and everything will Trinidad and Tobago will become a veritable utopia. All right? But he tell earlier, this is a minister of government telling you, you vote for pothole, hush your mouth. Take pothole. Who winning? You know why he could say that? As I've told you all before, because he's driving in his brand new Toyota Land Cruiser, pearl white, Toyota Land Cruiser, PEK, whatever, that he has been able to afford and purchase thanks to you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer living in Diego Martin West. You who pay in your taxes so that the government could use some of that money to fix your roads, pave the potholes. Right? You ain't getting that. 8 months on, promise made, promise has not been kept. But you have a minister of government coming to gaslight you and tell you, well, it's your fault you're driving through all them potholes and it's fixed. Don't blame Kamla. You didn't vote for Kamla, you voted for Hans Devines, you voted PNM. So take pothole in your tail. But you see his brand new vehicle, could probably take the pothole. He enjoying it. And it's $70,000 per month salary. 70,000 plus per month salary. He get a pay raise. All they talk about Rowley and the PNM increase the salaries of parliamentarians. He come in and he went from Zokes to 70,000 plus of the easiest dollars that you could earn for the month. All right? Because up to now, nobody could tell you what he has done, what he does on a daily basis in the Ministry of Housing, where he's a junior minister, where he spends less time than he spends on social media. You want to find him, you're more likely to find him in Westmall, strolling through Westmall in a pep tracksuit, than you're likely to find him in the Ministry of Housing in a 2-piece or 3-piece suit. Yes, you might find him on the roadway doing a live by the roundabout by West Moorings there. Or you might find him somewhere in the constituency of Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, where somebody looking to get a work. And so, you know, they hear the government is going to hire some people to clean up, to do the work that CPEP was doing. And so they're looking to audition. And somebody call him and say, hey, there's some fellas cutting down some big bush up in the back by Cascadia Hotel there. And so he drives up there in his brand new Toyota Land Cruiser. Yes. Even though it has some potholes in the road, but he's comfortable because the shock's good. In his brand new Toyota Land Cruiser purchased courtesy you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer. Right, who just get your 10% increase, some of you all. But piece of which they're going to take back in various different ways. He up there. That's what he doing. Come to tell you. You vote for PNM, take pothole. Let me get this here. I don't know if it is that Mr. Alexander and others like himself forgot that they took an oath of office to do right by all men without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. Let me see if I get it here. This one, right. Where is it? Let me see if I get it here. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this up. So let's see if we have it here. Is it this one? So this thing doing my. Just give me 1 second. Let me find it here. Ministerial. Is this it? Right. I think this is it here. Right. So Mr. Man would have taken 2 oaths of office. One as a senator, for which he gets paid every month, over $20,000, and then another as a minister, for which he also gets paid over $50-something thousand a month as well. All right? Separate and apart from the other perks that he gets. But he would have read, I, Philip Edward Alexander, do swear by whatever he swore by, probably the Constitution, because you see Kamala do it, and anything Kamala does, he does, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago and will uphold the Constitution and the law, that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as a minister and do right by all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. He said those words and he signed a book affirming to that oath to do right to all manner of people. But apparently when he read it, there was a caveat, except those who voted for the People's National Movement. To do right to all manner of people except those who voted for the People's National Movement. Right? So if you voted for the PNM, you're stupid. No government resources for you, despite the fact that the resources of state belongs to all citizens. But I guess it went viral and it didn't go well for him. So he decided to come back and do a time.
So Westmoreland's minister we have, and I know the leader that
Let me just get a little piece.
Okay, so I did a video earlier about potholes in Westmoreland, and it gone kind of super viral. And I thought I would qualify it a little bit because I need to say, I know the prime minister we have, and I know the leader that she is, and I know that she will take care of Westmoreland and every community in Trinidad and Tobago and make sure everybody gets all their needs. How do I know? Because under the People's Partnership government, when last she was prime minister, Ricardo Garcia was councillor for La Puerta. La Puerta is as PNM a community as you could get. And under Kamala Prasad Bissessar, Ricky Garcia, Rocky brother, was given the resources to take La Puerta Road down to dirt, fix every hole, every pipe, and pave it. For the first time must be in 40 years. I mean, to drive up La Puerta, you used to have to drive like you're driving through the Bocas. And he got that road paved smooth as glass, all the way to the top of the hill. Under Kamla Prasad Misesa, a fellow named Hooker, Hukin-Wassa, was the person who got water for Upper Rich Plain. For the first time in 62 years, Rich Plain is as PNM a community as it gets. Under Kamla Prasad Misesa, I was able, through Jack Warner, to get.
So you had to make a attack back. After telling Ole Indigo Martin West, take pothole in all your ways. I guess it went viral and it didn't go well for him. Probably got a call from somebody who told him to stay in your lane again. And so he decided to come back and retract to some extent. Now, this is a man who loves to lie. Because he did tell a lie there when he said that it was under Kamla Prasad Misesa 2010 to 2015 that Upper Rich Plain got water for the first time in over 60 years under a man named Hooker. First time in over 60 years. Well, prior to Mrs. Prasad Misesa becoming Prime Minister in 2010, I was well familiar with Upper Rich Plain, right? My girlfriend at the time used to live quite up the hill, at the top of the hill in Rich Plain. I used to hate to drive up there. Hate it. Because you're going up there, the road narrow, and if a car coming on, two cars can't pass on certain parts of the road because you have a set of cars parked up on the side, residents who live in there. So you had to reverse until you could find a space where the road widened to allow this car to pass so that you could go back up. And then when you reach up on the hill, it's pressure now to get parking, to park your car. So you had to go up on a hill. And as I recall, for the whole time that I used to go up there, they had water from Wassa, right? So I don't know where he get his thing from that is under Kamla Prasad Misesa that Upper Rich Plain got water for the first time in 60 years. But, you know, they like to exaggerate things. And if anybody is an exaggerator in that party, in that government, it's this man. This is the same man who put out a post a couple of years ago talking about you have 30,000 persons of African descent in the country's prisons. 30,000 persons of African descent in the country's prisons. And then when I said, but that is something right, 30,000. And when I checked how many prison facilities we have, I said, well, where 30, they can't be 30,000. And a simple Google search went on. Less than 6,000 persons. The total prison population was less than 6,000. Where he get 30,000 from, I don't know. Figment of his imagination. Just like when the government, the last administration was building the Diego Martin interchange. Day after day, my boy stand up on the interchange and he doing live and telling you that this interchange cost $2 billion. His information that it cost $2 billion. That ain't making sense. $2 billion. And that wasn't announced in the budget. The UNC didn't make an issue about that. $2 billion for an interchange. Of course, when the interchange was commissioned, the then Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sinanan, in his delivery would have announced that it cost $185 million, not $2 billion as this liar said. But he always knows best. All right? But there was something else that he said last week. Let me get that one for you. I played it before, but I'll give it to you again. Let me get it. He bright too bad. Bright like a bulb. That's the mouthpiece. I see he takes some of the 70,000 plus salary that he earns every month to buy Mrs. Prasad Misesa a very nice pen set. Very nice pen set. And presented to her at one of the many functions that they had at the Diplomatic Center so far in the last 8 months. I think perhaps the most recent function. Right? Let me get this here. I hope he didn't remove. Here we go.
Right. This one will destroy the PNM. The government is restarting a program similar to the intent of CPEP, but without the layers of corruption that the PNM did. So no more friends, family, financiers, wives, children, sons, daughters, friends, boyfriends, girlfriends getting contracts to use poor people. So look out for that. All of the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people that the PNN keep talking about that out of work, all of them going to be gainfully employed. But without PNN ministers and members of parliament using the program to thief money. This one going to destroy that.
This one going to destroy the PNM. Government has announced that they're going to introduce a program to restart something similar to what CPEP was. And all of the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people that the PNM talking about are unemployed and who lost their jobs, they're going to be gainfully employed under this program. Really? They hired 220 people. Philip. So you're still, if we go to the upper figure that you mentioned, 70,000, which is about the amount that have been fired so far in the last 7.5 months, you're still short 69,780 persons, Philip. 220. You all fired 11,000 from CPEP alone. So you're still woefully short. 220. And to add insult to injury, these people are required to work with their own tools. Bring your own cutlass, bring your own spray can, bring your own hoe, your own rake, your own uniform. The only thing that is going to be provided to you by the state is transportation from the hub, depending on which corporation they put you under, to wherever the site is that you're going to do the work, and then they bring you back to the hub. But everything else you have to provide. So week before, Thursday, Friday, the 13 PNM MPs would have received phone calls from the Secretary of the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, asking us for 2 names. 2, counted 1, 2 names for laborers. All right? I would have gotten the call around 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., and I indicated, well, will you catch me off guard or no? I just want because you want the person's name, their address, contact number, and ID card number. You didn't give me no time to think, well, who I could call, who I could I give this opportunity to? Because any opportunities that we get for employment, we take, regardless to what it is. I said, listen, you need to give me some time. Can I call you back at 12 o'clock? She said, certainly. She said, I will call you back. 12 o'clock on the dot, I got the call back. All right, Mr. Romeo, have your 2 names? Yes. Proceeded to give the names because they wanted laborers. That's it. 2. So 13 of us by 2, that is 26 people. They would have gotten of the 220, 26 came from the opposition. The rest from the UNC. All right, fine, no problem. They could do that. But he said this program, which is a pilot program for 13 weeks, is going to mash up the PNM. This one going to destroy the PNM. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people were supposed to be gainfully employed under this program. So we fired 11,000 grass cutters, but we're going to hire 70,000 grass cutters under this program. He just said that. Not me. He said that. Right? And they have these people working Saturday and Sunday because this coming week, Tuesday and Friday are holidays. Right? So, unlike when you went CPEP, you get Christmas Day and Boxing Day off, if they fall on a weekday. None of that. Because Thursday and Friday are holidays, they had to come out and work yesterday, and they had to work today, right? To make up for. So, you ain't getting no time off, that kind of thing. Mind you, get your own tools. So one of the 2 persons whose names I sent, when he went for the briefing last week, Monday, called me and he said, there's some program that they haven't, we're doing work similar to CPEP and things, but they tell us we had to bring our own tools, you had to bring your own clothes, your own uniform, and everything. All they're providing is transportation. He's unemployed. So he has no money to buy tools, and he needed it for the next day. Has no money to buy any uniform because those jackets that they wear with the kind of neon strip and so on, right? Because it's 5 o'clock in the morning, they're expected to show up. So at that time of the morning, you need to be glowing so you don't get knocked down if you're cutting grass at the side of the road. No money for any of these things. So of course he calls me because I gave his name. So what do you think had to happen? Yes, the MP had to intervene to provide some funds to cover the cost of. Fortunately, I had let's call it a tree canal. So I was able to give him that, right? And to assist with the purchase of the uniform and so on. You went to Cabinet Tuesday. Cabinet approve it. Friday, you want names for the people to start to work Tuesday. Hurry, no tools, no nothing. Just come. Be grateful that you're getting to work for 3 months. What happened after that? No idea. So I don't know if it is they're hoping that this 220 people would be able to do the work of 11,000. And if that works out, because they said it's a pilot project. So if there's 220 persons could do the work of 11,000 people, well, that's the program right there. Philip, what about the next 69,000 plus, Phil? Going on with them? They're supposed to mash up the PNM? Well, all 13 of us, right? We have people calling us. I could read out for you all. For if you like joking, right? People who were working CPAP, who were working URP, who were working forestry. Let me give you all an idea. Good day. I got this at 11:35 a.m. Good day. Season's greetings to you, sir, to you and your family. By chance, are you giving hampers this year? I am in dire need of one. I am not working at present. I live in your constituency. Thank you very much in advance, and my number is so and so. Another one. Good day, Mr. Dominic. Hope I am not bothering you or anything like that. Just messaging about an update with respect to employment or food support. I came in and I saw you about a month ago. I'm still here fighting up. I'm a single father, unemployed, and I just need a little assistance, if no problem. Going again. Hi, good day. I hope I'm not harassing you. This is December 17th, 11:15 a.m. By chance, is there any food card or hampers that you can assist me and my mom with? We are really going through it. Online. Look at it. See? Look at it. Just to let you know. And this is how my messenger reads. And I could keep going on and reading for you. Another one. Received December 19 at 9:15 p.m. Hi, good day. Hope I'm not bothering you. Would it be possible to receive a food hamper? And then I could go in my WhatsApp. Because some people who have my number. Let's go. We go in again. Give me 1 sec. All of these are people who had jobs. And who took it away? When UNC win, seems not everybody win. Just now, let me get it here. Where is it? There's just so many. Where is she? Just now. Just now. Where is it? This one. I don't even have some of these numbers saved, so I just had to go through. Another one. Good day, sir. I'm a single mother of 2, desperately in need of a food card, please. My number is so. I live at such and such street in Malabar, Rima. Right. Going again. Where is it? So, let's see if I get this here. Yeah, but that's supposed to mash up the PNM and Philip. Yes. Good morning, sir. Please remember me for a food card for Christmas. I would really appreciate it as I'm still unemployed. Former CPAP worker. That was on the 5th of December. 11th of December. Good morning, sir. Any feedback on the request for a food card, please? Christmas is soon approaching. Any help received would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Regards. Monday. Good day, sir. Compliments of the season. Just following up, asking if I would be able to get a food card. Regards, Miss So-and-so. Things are very hard. Thursday. Good morning, sir. Just following up. Any feedback on the food card? Friday. Thank you so much. I just received the call. On behalf of my family, thank you very much. Regards, Miss So-and-so. So they gave us 250 food cards to give out. I've had several calls for the morning. So they give you the food card and a slip with the PIN number for the food card. And several persons have called to say that they are unable to access the support because The numbers, when they open the slip to get the PIN number, it is so light that they can't make it out. So these people were happy to receive the food card, looking to go to the grocery now, open the PIN, and ta-da, blank. Nothing. I can't fix that. So until tomorrow morning, where I will have to call the minister's secretary to indicate to them that this is the problem that we are having. I don't know if they could resolve it before Christmas, but I'm sure many of these people were looking forward to using the funds on this food card, this one-time food card, to buy something for Christmas, right? They can't even get that right. We are very grateful for it. Any opportunity. I could tell you, people came when they got the call, and we would have populated our list based on persons who would have come to see me over the last 8 months, persons who would have expressed the need for food support, right? Who we would have assisted with hampers over the course of the last 7.5 going into 8 months. And I remembered them, that they needed help. And I said, okay, let us go through what we have and let's call these people. And some of them were happy to get the call. They came to the office. You call them now, and within half an hour or less, they were in front, they were by the office. And they came happy, tears. Let me give you an example again. We go in again. I'm gonna play it. This one was not a food card because thanks to the generosity of many of you listening, we were able to provide hampers as well. Many of you who supported said, here, don't call my name, please, because I don't want to lose my blessings. And we appreciate that. You know who you are. So and again, we say thank you. But let me give you this one. Let me play this one. Where is it?
Good day. Now come from my Mr. Dominic Romain. When you want to talk about hamper, I do yourself know where to start. Words can't describe commitment, dedication, and a manner is word. You see, Mr. Dominic Romain, I ask God to continue blessing you. Gratitude, my heart overwhelmed. My heart is overwhelmed. This is hamper. This is what you call hamper. I get ham, I get 3 market bag of groceries. Mr. Dominic Romain and staff, thanks very much again. Thanks very much. My eyes full of water. Thanks very much.
You heard him say his eyes full of water. Let me tell you, he wasn't exaggerating. I wasn't in the office when he came. But from what my staff told me, he broke down crying in the office because he was so grateful for the assistance. And I didn't think that it would be appropriate just to give the traditional hamper, just with a few things in it. So we decided to beef it up a bit, right? So I would have dipped in my own pocket. We would have purchased hams for some people, right? For some of the hampers and stuff, we topped up. We would have gone to Massy and Extra Foods, and we would have purchased the basic hampers, and then we bought additional stuff to top up what was in these hampers. And we know that Christmas is a ham is part of the staple, the Christmas staple, and so we sought to assist persons in that regard as well. And many of them were very great. First time they received hampers before, first time they get hampers with ham. We also had a lady from the US who would have made arrangements with someone to come and bring hampers, and aside from the usual things, she provided them with meat. So there were those packs of mixed parts, chicken parts and stuff that was sent. She would have sent stuff for callaloo pack, cabbage, carrot, dasheen bush, all of these different things, cheese, butter, stuff that you don't normally get in hampers, right? And so many of you, again, as I said out there, who listen and would have offered and would have come forward, and we thank you so much. We had someone from the Port of Spain area who would have donated a number of hampers as well. She was one of the persons who told me don't make mention of her name, so I will not, right? But it was greatly appreciated by those who would have received it. But since Philip say that this program is supposed to create jobs for the 60, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 who we always talking about, and They only provided for 220. Maybe he knows where the next 69,000 plus is coming from. So Philip has a hotline on WhatsApp. It's called 702PH. Okay, well, Lord Father. If Dutish was a person, right? Now he put out this on his page, right? 702 Phil. Now Phil has 5 letters. PHILL. So which means that phone number has 8 digits and not 7. 702 Phil. So forget the Phil because clearly he's a buffoon. 702-7445. So you could WhatsApp him. You're looking for work? Philip will fix it. WhatsApp him or call him at 702-7445. Yeah, getting a free plug here, Phil. Okay? Feel free to WhatsApp him. He's your shadow MP for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. The fixer of everything. You want your pothole fixed? Philip will fix it. You're looking for work? Philip will fix it. You want an HGC house? Philip will fix it. You want to know the status of your HGC application? Call Philip. He will fix it. 702-7445. You're looking for a job and you want to be a part of this new program that they say is not CPEP? It has started. They hire 220 and Philip said they want to hire 70,000 of you will be gainfully employed. 702-7445. Feel free to WhatsApp Philip and see if he could help you. All right? Good. There was one more thing. Let me get this here again. So there seems to be no end to the number of events that are being hosted at the Diplomatic Center. You all know the same Diplomatic Center that when this administration came in a few months ago, we were told, courtesy Barry, that it was in a deplorable state, uninhabitable, unusable. And the Prime Minister had no intentions of using it. And he gave us the tour of the guard hut where the scanner wasn't working. And then somebody was very astute, zoomed in and showed us where it was unplugged. Right? So he walked through to show it wasn't working, but yeah. And it was a terrible state, cannot be used. And then we had the first function where the Prime Minister of India would have visited Trinidad and Tobago, and a function was held there for him. And since then, it's just function after function after function. We had the event to launch the apprenticeship program, the B-Mobile apprenticeship program for some 650 young people. That was hosted there. And a series of other events, the most recent one being a couple of days ago, where the Prime Minister, according to Philip, treated her ministers and others to supper because they simply did not have the time before. But let him tell you.
So tonight, the Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Nicessa, invited her team for supper at the Diplomatic Center. I want to tell you something. An evening of love. We didn't get a chance since the election, since that bruising campaign. We didn't get a chance to stop and break bread. It was been 8 months, hard months from the moment we entered into office. And today, she brought everybody together, the whole campaign, everybody. And it was like, it was like a blast from the past. It was like, boom. We got to relive all of the good people that were with us along the way, that got us to here, that is fixing Trinidad-Tobago. And I want to tell you something. I am really proud of the decisions that we made. I'm proud to be part of this government. I am proud of that Prime Minister. And I look forward to 2026 with eager anticipation. We're fixing it. Stay strong, Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, he used the correct word there, supper. I don't know if it was a Freudian slip, but he's correct. Because he is the chief conductor of the choir of supper singers, right? He has been singing for his supper for the last 7 months since he was made a minister. Probably because, I don't know, the Prime Minister probably freed his mouth or something like that. But all of them who's singing for the supper, the Prime Minister said, well, come, time for you all to get the supper. All this singing my praises for the last 7 months, it's time for me to reward you with the supper that you've been singing for. And as you just heard him there, he got it, right? Again, how was that paid for? Wonder it was the taxpayers' money, but all your costs, Rowley, drag Rowley. They allocate $50 million for entertainment for the office of the Prime Minister. for Rowley to spend 50 million to wine and dine and drink the best liquor and all of that. I don't think in the amount of events that have been hosted at the Prime Minister's residence, diplomatic center in the last 7.5 months, I don't think Dr. Rowley hosted that many events in probably 5 years. Event after event. And if you talk about it, something wrong with you. Something wrong with you. So it had staff party, end of year party, this party. They had a ceremony when they had the signing of the production sharing agreement with Exxon. That was another event that they hosted at the diplomatic center, because apparently the Prime Minister only goes 2 places, home and the diplomatic center. That's it. Right? And they want to tell you, well, the entertainment, we didn't have to spend any money on the entertainment because we only use persons who are brand ambassadors for B-Mobile. And so they're already being compensated by B-Mobile, so it was free. What about the food? B-Mobile has brand ambassadors who provide food too. How about the entertainment, the sound system, the DJ? B-Mobile has brand ambassadors who are DJs as well. What about the alcohol? B-Mobile has brand ambassadors who are who deal in alcohol too. Because I'm pretty sure when these people come, you don't tell them, hey, when you finish eating, have a hose outside in front, go and full of glass. Pretty sure you all don't do that. By now, all of the alcohol that Barry push outside in the trolley to say, look, we just came here and look at all the alcohol that we found in the Prime Minister's residence that was left over by the last occupant. Look at how wastage and how much money they spend on alcohol. And then they come in the parliament to tell you that alcohol that was seized by customs that came into the country legally, that the PNM was taking that alcohol and they were using it for functions and all kind of thing. Well, I'm almost certain with the amount of functions that they've had at the diplomatic center in the last 7.5 months, all that liquor probably done, right? Because these guys are not sippers. They don't 2 sips and they're done. No, they are gulpers, all right? If you leave a function at the diplomatic center and your head not bad, something wrong with you. That's how bad it is, all right? But where are the supporters of the UNC? Where are you all? Rowley had so many events. Nobody ain't talking about that. Nah. That's okay. Can have as many events as they want. It's all right. But then they put out an edict telling state agencies and government ministries, no end of year function, no party, no Christmas function. All right. So be it. Right? So, but you see, as Phil could say, he's happy to be a part of this administration. Well, if I was getting 70,000 plus easy a month just so, I too would be happy to be. Not part of that administration, because them can't buy me. I see certain people get appointments to state boards. I shall call no names. But if you know the name, whistle, and I might wink. I ain't calling no name. But I'm sure some of you all know who I'm talking about. But congratulations to the gentleman. All right? Well deserved. I would not take that work. But then again, that's just me. Regardless of how qualified you are, there are just certain things that you don't do. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world for the loss of his soul? And that is how some people see it. Okay. I am not going down that road. Congratulations, sir. Good for you. Just know that you can't buy the hand that feeds you. Right? And how this government goes about trying to muzzle people who have a platform, who have a following, and who can influence that following against them. What do? Well, they get your work. You want to be on a board? You want to be chairman of a board? Deputy chairman? Look, come. You get it? You're happy? Okay. Yes, you're qualified, and you feel that you could be of some use, but it just means that now you have surrendered your testicular fortitude for the next 5 years or the next 4 years and 5 months. Yeah, because you can't talk about them now and they put you on a board, for which you're very appreciative. But to each his own. I move on. Let me get this one for you all. They say when UNC wins, everybody wins. All right, let's put that to the test. Let me get this here. Let me let you hear it straight from the mouth of a diehard UNC supporter. Right? This is a man who cussed PNM for the last 10 years. Cussed PNM for the last 10 years. PNM was the worst thing, evil, wicked thing, whatever. Strong, hardcore UNC supporter. Listen to it.
They lied.
Let me start over.
Me happy at them because UNC lied. You heard me? They lied. They hit me up here now because if there's one thing I hate, are liars. That's what they did. They lied. They lied to us. They lied to me. And I don't like that. You see, all UNC supporters, you're going to have a problem with me saying this because me, I voted for the UNC. And because of that, it is my duty to hold them accountable. So yes, they lied. When Kamala was campaigning, Kamala said that there will be no new taxes if they take government. She campaigned on that. Okay? I supported the UNC because of that. I told everyone, I told you guys, that if the UNC win, no new taxes will be implemented. Now I feel like a liar. UNC have me feeling like a liar. She said, or she was alluding to, that the retirement age will not be sent to 65. I believe that.
But any discussion about changing retirement age will need serious consultations, one. And two, should that be the option preferred by the majority, it should be one that is by choice. That is to say, those who wish to go home at 60, fine. Those who wish to go home at 65, fine. But you cannot tell a man worked his whole life, put his savings, paying NIS every week or every month, and you come to tell him, no, sorry, sir, you can't get it. You have to wait till 65. You cannot continue like that.
And they lied to me. I came on social media and told you guys, I had discussions with people in public, personally telling them that no, Kamala will not send the retirement age to 65. I believed them, and I was an idiot to believe a politician. A big idiot. I was stupid. I was naive. We saw the budget. Dave Tanko implemented new taxes, put a tax on landlord. He totally disrupted the duties on the port where containers are concerned, change up to block prices, etc. You name it. He totally fucked up that operation. Now, because of that, it may have a catastrophic effect on the citizens living in Trinidad and Tobago because prices most likely will go up. We saw what Carib did yesterday. We used to pay $10 for a Caribbean English. Now we're paying like $13 or $14. That's a $3 to $4 different that you will be paying for a beer. And I don't drink. I'm just using that as an example. So I don't like being lied to. And in case you guys didn't see the video where Kamala was speaking about the NIS, I'm going to play it for you after this. But it's unfair to us to be paying 6% more on NIS contributions and selling that age to 65, but most of us ain't even going to live to reach 60, imagine 65. Most of us may not even see that NIS. There are other ways in which you can fix the NIB problem. If, because EPNM came and shut down Petrogen, causing thousands of people to lose their jobs, and because of that, it sort of depleted the NIB for NIS funds, create jobs. It's not difficult to create jobs. You could create about 100, 200,000 jobs. The amount of things that is needed in Trinidad and Tobago right now, you can create jobs and let people, contribute them back to the NIS payments. There's a subsidiary to the NIB.
Strong UNC supporter. Yeah, what he said that? They lied to him. And he hates being lied to. The UNC lied to you. He said that. Okay? When UNC wins, who wins? Anyway. So, let me jump to Tobago. Because we have an election around the corner on the 12th of January, THA election. And there was an issue that came up over the last few days with respect to the Cabo Star, the lone cargo vessel on the Sea Bridge. Contract for that, the charter party agreement, will come to an end on the 12th of January, the same day as the THA election. Coincidence? And there was some concern expressed last week about the news that came out that the Cabo Star has been sold and will be leaving our shores on the 12th of January, never to be seen or heard of in Trinidad and Tobago waters again. Now, when that story broke on social media, and that's how it broke, PNM persons, not just in Tobago, in Trinidad, who were concerned. And of course, there's a campaign taking place in Tobago, and the issue found its way on the political platform. I believe it was raised by Mr. Ansel Dennis, who is the leader of the PNM in Tobago. And the goodly Chief Secretary, Farley Augustine, decided to respond when he heard. So he mounted a platform and decided to tell his supporters, PNM like to twisting and turn around, and PNM like to lie and all kind of things. But when you listen to his narrative, as to how he found out and what transpired, it tells a lot, right? So the Chief Secretary said, and this is what I heard on a news clip, heard him, what was played. He told the audience that PNM like to twisting and so on. But when he heard about the sale of the Cabo Star, he picked up the phone last week, Tuesday, and he called the Minister of Works and Infrastructure, Jolene John, who is responsible for the Inter-Island Ferry and so on, which is still under her, I think, albeit it should really be under the Ministry of Transport, but anyway, it's under her. So, and he said, his words to her was, Minister, I hear something that troubling my spirit. And you know, when Tobago people, when things troubling our spirit, we tend to use words that might not be appropriate. All right? Take that to mean whatever you think it means. And the minister went on to tell him that, sir, don't worry, we already went out for tender, and we have a couple options, and I'm going to cabinet on Thursday to present some of these options and so on. And we would have listened to the stakeholders. So they had a stakeholder meeting back in June, the 11th of June, at which stakeholder meeting the Chief Secretary said he was present. And he claims that Minister John would have indicated to them or reminded the members of the stakeholders meeting who were there that the charter party agreement for the Cabo Star was going to come to an end on July 12th. All right? So we're aware of that, and the options were to re-engage or to procure a new vehicle, a new vessel. So this was on the 11th of June. So between the 11th of June and last week, Tuesday, it seems that the goodly Chief Secretary, the champion for Tobago autonomy, didn't care to make any inquiries as to the status of the charter party agreement with the Cabo Star. Because it seems, based on his own utterances, that he found out the same way the PNM found out about the sale of the Cabo Star. Or rather, he would have heard it from the PNM making mention of it on the campaign trail, and it started to cause a stir in Tobago. And that prompted him to pick up the phone and call the minister, Jolene John, to ask her about what is this that he's hearing. And he would have been given certain reassurances by the minister, right, that they have options. So for a whole more than 5 months, or 6 months to be exact, because between the 11th of June and last week, Tuesday, he didn't care to ask any questions, right? He's saying it was no secret that the charter party agreement was going to come to an end on the 12th of July or 12th of January. So you know what the PNM talking about? Sir, the fact that you had to pick up the phone and call Jolene John to make inquiries says a lot. It says a lot. It says you didn't know. You were clueless. And while you want to attack the PNM because they like to lie and twist things, and the PNM didn't have the privilege that you have to pick up the phone and call Jolene John or call the Prime Minister or whoever else and to ask for information. But once again, it demonstrated that they left you in the dark because they knew that the Cabo Star was sold, that it would be leaving our shores on the 12th. They didn't call it to say, well, listen, this is the issue. We've been informed that the Cabo Star is going to be sold. They will be leaving our shores on the 12th. The charter party agreement has not been re-engaged. All right, it has not been renewed, and therefore we need to find a new vessel. But in case we don't find one in time, we want to let you know so that you wouldn't be caught unawares and with your pants down, because we know you're heading into a THA election, and this could be a problem. So if this mark didn't bust last week, we don't know what is the status, because last week, Thursday, Jolene was supposed to take this these options to the cabinet for approval. The 12th of January is just around the corner. And I highly doubt that they would be able to sign off on a new charter party agreement, this being Christmas week and so on, in time for the 12th of January to have that replacement arrive in Trinidad to replace the Cabo Star. So, Farley, who fancies himself to be the Prime Minister of Tobago, was none the wiser. None the wiser. So they excluded him, but they told him nothing about the radar. So you get leave out for that. And then they come and they leave you out again with respect to this issue with the Cabo Star. So the minister gave him certain assurances because he picked up the phone and told us something troubling his spirit. He hears something and troubling his spirit. And you know, as Tobagonians, when things troubling your spirit, we use words that are inappropriate. What are those words? I do not know. But he is comforted by what the minister said. I didn't see. Was there a post-cabinet press briefing on Thursday? Did Minister Jolene John indicate that they have found a vessel, that a choice was made and that they are going to find this replacement vessel and it's going to come to Trinidad to replace the Cabo Star? Because I recall in 2016, when the PNM had just come into office, we faced a similar situation with respect to the Superfast Galicia, which was the vessel that we had at that time, right? That was chartered by the People's Partnership. This great Superfast Galicia. Listening to the supporters, you would swear that that was the best boat we ever had in Trinidad and Tobago. Best boat. How much money did it cost us? They're not interested to find out about that. All right? But let me remind you what procurement of a vessel under the UNC brings. Let me remind you all. Let me get this here. So, right. I'm reading here from the Mute report. It's also entitled The Report into the Procurement of the Cabo Star and the Ocean Flower 2. Right. So we know what would have happened. PNM came into office in 2015 and 2016. There was the issue of the renewal of the Charter Party Agreement. How did the Superfast Galicia come to Trinidad and Tobago? Well, at the time when the PNM demitted office, based on this report, 2010, there was a vessel called the Warrior Spirit at the time. And when this People's Partnership came into office, you all may recall they sold the Panorama for a song and a dance. I think it was $300,000 US they sold the Panorama for. After the people who purchased the Panorama would have come to Trinidad in March of 2010, they met with the Manning administration. They offered this small money for the Panorama, and the Manning administration said, thanks, but no thanks, have a good day. The people left. Election on the 24th of May, the People's Partnership won. The people came back in August and they offered, and the People's Partnership said, yeah, sold. Just like the picture they sold at the Prime Minister at the UNC fundraiser last week. $200,000 for a picture, a blow-up of Mrs. Prasad Bisesa in her younger years, right? It seems that a particular contractor who was considered to be blacklisted, that was one of the contractors that they said that the Prime Minister threatened to bust people's head if she saw her ministers cavorting with, you know, one of the so-called PNM contractors, right? So, threatening to bust head. You know who you are. These greedy, eater food, corrupt PNM contractors, right? Okay. So, they had a fundraiser, tickets being sold, you can sell the ticket to anybody. They bring a picture of the Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, bids went up, $200,000, right? So you have men with money in this country who could just pull out the checkbook, write a check for a picture, but they could have go on Facebook, social media, get a picture and go and blow it up and hang it up if you so love Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. But this guy was willing to pay $200,000 for this picture. Nothing wrong with that. It's his money, he could do what he want with it. But That was the big fundraiser, right? 200,000. And we hear the word on the ground is, hey, the contractor looking to, you know. Anyway, let me not go down that road, right? But she didn't walk with her big stone the other night to bust head. She didn't bust the contractor head, and she didn't bust the head of any of her ministers. Who sold the ticket to the gentleman? So is it all is forgiven? So I tell you, I don't take them seriously. So when she came and she gave that talk about, I know who you are, and she's not going to tolerate it, and blah blah blah, and the mistakes of the past, and I will fire you. And you want nothing to do with them by taking the money, right? Okay. And they say, Rowley say, nothing wrong with the rich getting richer. Right? Rowley said the rich must get richer. Okay. $200,000. I believe that's one of the contractors that is also before the court for EMBD. The EMBD matter. Yeah. Just say it. So I'm reading here from the Mute report. Let me get this here. The most salient point, because a lot to read. Right. But I just want to give you all an idea. The last time the UNC had cause to procure a vessel, what happened? The procurement of a cargo vessel. Right. By Cabinet Minute number 955-2006-0427 of, no, not that one. In 2014, the MV Warrior Spirit was then 34 years old and had, inter alia, developed mechanical problems. The vessel experienced mechanical problems in the starboard engine on December the 8th, 2013, and the vessel has been running on one engine, resulting in longer sailing times between the islands. One Nairi D. Alfonso, attorney at law, had been engaged to, inter alia, advise on the grounds for the termination of the charter party agreement regarding the MV Warrior Spirit. Unfortunately, the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago was not able to terminate the charter party agreement for the MV Warrior Spirit, and as a result, the government was, after the charter party hire of the MV Superfast Galicia, committed to paying 2 sets of charter party hire fees until the agreement for the MV Warrior Spirit expired in August 21st, 2016, and to obtain a short-term replacement vessel for the MV Warrior Spirit. A decision was taken by the Port Authority Board at a meeting on February 8th, 2014 to adopt a selective tendering procedure in an effort to find an alternative transportation service. 9 firms, including ND Alfonso and Company, were selected to tender for the charter hire of a cargo vessel on February 10th, 2014. The evaluation committee recommended the tender received by ICSL for the MV Superfast Galicia. ICSL was not one of the 9 firms invited to tender. However, according to the management evaluation report of the Port Authority, ICSL advised the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago that they were acting as the agent for ND Alfonso and Company, as evidenced by the management evaluation report, and according to paragraph 5 of Marcia Charles Elborn, Port Secretary, based on the records of the Port Secretary, Ms. Alfonso was involved at several stages of the procurement process for the Galicia. Leon Grant, CEO of the TTIT, the Trinidad and Tobago Inter-Island Transportation thing, at paragraph 27 and 28 of the statement stated, listen to this, right? There was a selective tender, and the Galicia came in as one of the front runners. This process was done through the Port Secretary and Ms. Nairi Alfonso, who came in as a representative attorney for the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago to try to get out of the Warrior Spirit contract. This was not successful, and the Port Authority could not get out of the Warrior Spirit contract. This is after they came in 2010, and somebody thought it was a brilliant idea to sign off or to renew the charter party agreement for the Warrior Spirit for a longer time than they normally would. All right? Which is why they found themselves in this situation. That when it developed technical problems and was limping on one engine, because they were bound by the charter party agreement, that some brilliant person suggested that they should sign for more than the usual number of years, all the way till 2016, and they couldn't get out of it. You, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, had to be paying for 2 vessels, one in use and one that was not in use. Right? The Warrior Spirit was not in use, and the Galicia was. But we come into that just now. The board would have relied on Ms. Nairi Alfonso to provide the information on how to get a replacement vessel. This is Mr. Leon Grant talking here, right? He was at the time the acting general manager of the CEO of TTIT. I attended one or two of those meetings with Ms. Alfonso, and Ms. Alfonso's firm was invited to submit a tender for a vessel as a possible solution. An evaluation exercise was done, and a vessel from Intercontinental Shipping Limited emerged as the frontrunner. Originally, ICSL was not shortlisted, but Ms. Alfonso recommended to the Port Secretary that there is a company called ICSL, which Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago should consider. In the final listing, ICSL was invited to tender, and Ms. Alfonso's firm was excluded. ICSL was included. Cabinet minute. This is what I want you to hear. Number 972 of April 3rd, 2014, agreed to the charter hire of the MV Superfast Galicia for a period of 12 months. So I guess they learned their lesson and they didn't want to end up in the same situation as with the Warrior Spirit. On the 1st of May 2014, the government entered into a contract with ICSL for the charter hire of the MV Superfast Galicia, despite certain challenges identified by Leon Grant, CEO acting of TTIT. Despite certain challenges identified by Leon Grant, who participated in a sea trial of said vessel. It is noteworthy to mention that the requisite report on the sea trial indicated that the vessel configuration was incompatible with that of port infrastructure. However, the contract was entered into. What was the end result of that? So Mr. Grant went on the sea trial in Europe, where the Galicia was. And as a result of him attending this sea trial, they realized that the Superfast Galicia was not compatible with the infrastructure, the port infrastructure in Port of Spain. So it was not an ideal vessel. But they was told, listen, bring it anyway, and we'll figure it out when it gets here. All right? No problem. However, the contract was entered into. Upon the arrival of the vessel to Trinidad, it remained idle for a period of 53 days, lying at anchorage outside the port of Port of Spain Harbor because it could not berth either the GSS ferry terminal area, nor could it berth Mediterranean style stern on at berth number 3 due to the height of the stern ramp in relation to the height of the quay wall. In order to accommodate the vessel at berth number 3, engineering, steel, and paving works were contracted by the Port Authority at an approximate cost of $2 million, which was following which a barge and attendants were hired at a daily charter hire rate of US $1,500 to act as a bridge between the vessel and the quay wall. The above mentioned costs were additional to the daily charter rate of Euro 14,750 or US 17,500 per day, charged for the MV Superfast Galicia. So it arrived in Trinidad, and for 53 days, it was just anchored out, not being used, just taking sun, chilling, costing you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayers, 17,500 US per day. Multiply 17,500 US by 53 and see what you get, and then convert it to TT dollars. But they like to accuse the PNM of wastage. That was money well spent. Further, and as stated by Leon Grant in statement of paragraph 30-32, my concerns with a vessel like the Galicia was the inadequate physical infrastructure. I said this clearly in my report. The ministry then asked me to write and see how these issues in my report can be addressed. I recommended infrastructural arrangement, a barge, and a ramp to get the vehicles on and off of the vessel. When the Galicia arrived, the charter rate was applicable, even though it was not operational, as per charter party agreement because of infrastructural adjustments to be made. The adjustments lasted 3 to 4 weeks. The Galicia eventually started to work by berth 3 and 4 with the assistance of a barge. The full cost of the barge was an additional US $1,500 per day for the use of the barge and its crew. So we're looking at 19,000 US per day. Right? So they were told it's not compatible. Bring it anyway. We're going to deal with that. They had it parked up when it started to work. For those of you who recall, right outside the Hyatt Hotel. And it was reported that every time they start the engine of the Superfast Galicia, the great boat, it would rock the foundation of the Hyatt. right? Resulting in damage to the Hyatt with the force, shattered windows and all of these different things. You started to see cracks in the seawall and all of that. And that money had to be found to fix the damage, which you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, also paid for. They were told it was not ideal. But they say bring it anyway because they were desperate. Are we now in a situation of desperacy? Because the 12th of January is quickly upon us and they don't have a vessel yet and we know the Galicia is going. Farley is the boy. Farley is the friend, like the partner. Farley is smart. The 12th and the 12th. Because he had up until March to call that election. But if you wait until March to call the election and it has no replacement vessel between January the 12th, thereafter, should you call the election at a later date, it's pressure for you. So we will see, come the 12th of January, what they have in place to treat with the departure of the Superfast Galicia. Because remember, they made a big hullabaloo in 2016 that the PNM mashed up the sea bridge. The PNM collapsed the sea bridge because they sent back the Superfast Galicia and the boat was working good and nothing wasn't wrong with the boat. And they come in and just because the UNC and they get rid of the boat. Let's examine that. So they know the Cabo Star has been sold. All right. Let me get this here. Where is it? I am reading here from an article dated December the 1st, 2015. December the 1st, 2015, right? Here's what it says. It's 2015 just now. Let me just get this here. Right. Sorry, December the 1st, 2016. And this is what is being advertised, right? Superfast Galicia to return to Spain. Transmed has included the Superfast Galicia in their plans as from May the 22nd. The 1,762 lane meter vessel has been owned by Transmed since 2005, but has recently been chartered out to operate in Trinidad and Tobago between Scarborough and Port of Spain. The vessel is due back in early 2017 and will be upgraded before entering service with Transmed. The vessel passenger capacity will also be increased to 300 to make it a more genuine RoPax. The vessel has appeared in the posted schedules in Transmed's website as operating between Valencia and Ibiza and replacing the 1J Sister, although the name no longer appears. Perhaps a name change is in order. The 1J Sister appears on the Barcelona-Mahon route, replacing the SNAV Adriatico, which does not appear in the May schedule and perhaps will be off-hired. So even before the opportunity presented itself for the renewal and renegotiation and so on, Transmed, the owners of the Superfast Galicia, had already put out that their boat was headed back to Spain. They already had plans to upgrade it and all of these different things. The people made up their minds. But they said the PNM, nothing wasn't wrong with the boat. The PNM sent back the boat and they didn't want it because the UNC, all kind of foolishness. When in truth and in fact, the owners of the boat had already made up their minds. Just as the owners of the Cabo Star have already made up their minds. They sell the boat, right. Now, there is more to be read in this report, this Mute report, but I don't have the time today. For those of you who used to listen to me on 91.9, you would have heard me interrogate this report back in 2018, there was 2018, 2019. But many of you are new listeners, and so you would not be familiar with the intricacies of the report, what is contained in here, so that you could understand how that last administration, the administration of 2010 to 2015, how their mismanagement, their failure to send the 2 ferries for dry docking when they were supposed to, how they kept extending the, requesting an extension of the time to send the vessels for dry dock, for repairs, for maintenance. And as a result of that, when the PNM came in 2015 into 2016, the boats were limping along and there were no more opportunities for extension. So this international entity that is supposed to certify and so on said, listen, it have no more extensions. Those vessels have to go on dry dock. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. So don't even bother to write and ask for no extension. There is none to be had. Fix or limits. Go and find a replacement vessel to function on the sea bridge until such time as these vessels go on dried up and they are able to come back out. And of course, when they went on dried up, what was found? You all have heard me say one was in the high dependency unit, and the other one was in the intensive care unit. Right? The one that was in the high dependency unit, the government was able to salvage that one at great cost, and it took several months. The one that was in ICU, unfortunately, today, it is sitting at the bottom of the ocean, somewhere between Trinidad and Tobago and Spain. It was sold by PNM administration for much more than the Panorama was sold for. And while it was being towed to its new home in Europe, took on water and sank. So now is a home for fishes somewhere in the ocean, in the big vast ocean, somewhere out there, right? Neighbor to the Titanic. And so now they find themselves in a similar situation, having to once again procure a vessel for the sea bridge. But Mr. Farley Augustine chooses to attack the PNM. PNM like to twist things. PNM like to lie. PNM this and the PNM that. Studies though, that for 6 months you didn't see it fit to make inquiries to make sure that everything was above board and the government was doing what it needed to do with respect to this vessel. Not once did you think to pick up the phone the same way you called Jolene to let her know something troubling your spirit and what Tobagonians do when your spirit is troubled. You didn't think to do that between 11th of June and last week Tuesday. You weren't concerned. You weren't interested to find out about that, right? And you get them a free pass. Jolene tell you, well, we have a vessel, 2 vessels, we have 2 options, whatever. You don't know, well, how it looking, Minister? How it looking? Does it look like the cabinet will approve this? I need to know because I need to go back and tell the people of Tobago. It is not sufficient for me to just tell them, well, you have 2 options and you're going to cabinet. But apparently it was sufficient for him. So they still don't know. And as I said, I didn't read anything in the newspaper stating that a decision was made. So come January, when the Galicia leaves, what's going to happen? They didn't want a barge last time. Remember, because they said salt water falling on the goods and all. Okay, no problem. Fine. But we will see how that will play out. But Farley's a smart man. I'll hand it to him. Right? The vessel leaves on the 12th. The election is on the 12th. So if bacchanal ensues after that, and they don't have a replacement vessel, and you have a shortage of supplies in Tobago, well, election done. If he win, well, say what? But that certainly will not be an election issue, because he ain't going to talk about that. Jolene ain't going to talk about that. Fingers on the lip. 9 days, we forget about that. Don't talk, because then the people at Tobago want to know, and only putting Farley in a position to put pressure on the minister, and Farley don't want to do that. So let me talk about everything else. Everything else except that. And I came across an article where he spoke to that. You know, hypocrisy knows no bounds with these people. Farley boy, you take the cake. Let me get this here. I just wanted to touch on that quickly before I get to Madam Prime Minister. Hear what this man had to say, right? The title of the article is Cabo Star on its way out. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine, speaking at a Tobago People's Party meeting in the Mount St. George, Goodwood district on Tuesday night, reported that he had spoken to John earlier that night and was told that a team recently returned from Spain and Greece in search of a replacement vessel. So prior to last week Tuesday, he had no clue. Just as the PNM had no clue, all they knew was what was reported. Right? But he expected them to come and give a full account of what the situation was. And he is chief secretary and he don't know nothing. Clueless. All right. She said, and this is the chief secretary, we already went out. We have evaluation teams that returned from Spain and Greece last week, and I am going to cabinet this Thursday to present to the cabinet the option that those that did the evaluation said we should go with. She even said to me, right now, we are exploring an option for a vessel that would have as much as 100 cabins because we listen to your stakeholders. What are the stakeholders? He continued, so you see when PNM want to deceive people, they take things and they twist it, they spin it all how, repeat it, and hope the lies stick. And I am telling you, in this election, do not be deceived. Augustine, the TPP political leader, said the contract of the Cabo Star was coming to an end was no secret. First lie they're trying to tell you right now is that somehow we were keeping it a secret that the Cabo Star would not be here since June. Fali, when did you tell anybody? Jolene came and she met with the stakeholders. All of them sit around in a room. All of Tobago are stakeholders, right? Was there 65,000 people sit down in that room, Fali? Was this an open consultation where they say anybody who want to come through? Was it publicly televised? Did you all have this meeting on Facebook so that those persons who couldn't attend could look at it on Facebook and hear what Jolene was saying? But you're saying that they're accusing all of it being a secret. But the majority of Tobago, Fali, only found out last week, just like everybody else, that the Cabo Star was sold, Fali. But here it is, he's saying, it was in my presence. Since June, we said to the stakeholders, it was said in my presence, that the contract for the Cabo Star will come to an end in January. And when it comes to an end, there has to be a tender process in accordance with the OPR to either one, re-engage, or two, engage somebody new. So it was never a secret. It wasn't a secret. But yet still, he said he had to pick up the phone last week, Tuesday, and call Jolene to tell her he hears something that troubling his spirit. And you know, as Tobago people, when things troubling my spirit, we use words that are inappropriate. Why was your spirit troubled, Fali? Since you already knew, since June the 11th at the stakeholders consultation, you knew it was coming to an end in January, nothing new. You were aware, you were apprised. So why was your spirit so troubled? If you knew, if it wasn't a secret, and everybody knew, I don't see why you pick up the phone to call the minister to use bad word. Why was your spirit troubled? It wasn't a secret. Everybody knew. But yet still, your spirit was troubled, Fali. He goes on to say, let me see it here. There was a statement he made which was so ironic. See it, right? Yes. Where is it, buddy? Right. Just give me 1 sec, folks. Where is it? All right. June is it. I reminded. Right. Just now to present to the cabinet options. Right. Yeah, so it said, when you see the PNM want to deceive people, they take a thing and they twist it, they spin it all how, repeat it, and hope the lie will stick. And I am telling you in this election, do not be deceived. You know, irony of ironies. In 2020, when they were in the election campaign, the last DHA election, the first one that ended 6-6, you all remember about the zipline? And Fali and Watson was spinning a tale about this zipline. And the Auditor General report say, and money missing, and Tricky Tracy thief the money, and all of that. Here it is, he's talking about taking a thing, twist it, spin it all how, repeat it, and hope the lies stick. And he's telling you in this election, do not be deceived. But you and Watson deceived the people last time, Fali. When the Auditor General then decided that she was going to come to Tobago because she was fed up of you and Watson every day, meeting after meeting, misrepresenting the truth about what really was the situation, that there was nothing in the Auditor General's report that spoke to the issue of a zipline, but rather a management letter had been sent to the THA making inquiries about the zipline, because when the Auditor General when the auditors from the Auditor General's department came and they came to do their audit, they requested certain documents that were not available at the time. They sent a management letter requesting certain things. They would have received these documents and they were satisfied with the explanation. And so the matter of the zipline did not make its way into the Auditor General's report. But you and Watson were up and down the place telling people Auditor General report say, and Auditor General report say, and you were ably assisted in Trinidad, right, by your cohorts in Trinidad, your handlers now, puppeteers who have you dancing like, you know, a marionette. Yes, they were singing the same song in Trinidad. And when the Auditor General said she was going to come up to Tobago to clear the air, Watson mounted a platform and threatened her and told her, stay in Trinidad. What are you coming to Tobago for? You don't do your blasted report. What you coming to Tobago for? And if you come up here, I'll make your life a living hell. Watson Duke said that. Threatened the Auditor General, who simply wanted to do her job and come to Tobago to clear the air. with regards to the misrepresentation, the same way you all twisted and turned it and all how, and were lying to the people. When we in Trinidad were telling the people, listen, there is nothing in the Auditor General's report. Well, let's say PNM lie, people bought into that. When the two of you all were the liars, got into office based on a big lie. You got into office, commission audit. 4 years later, your term has come to an end. First term come to an end, right? Where is this report? This great audit report that is going to expose all the wrongdoing of the last administration. 21 years of PNM governance corruption. This audit is going to reveal the real. 4 years later, still auditing, Fali. Just like the tax records of a certain leader up the road. Taxpayers' money pay for that, and up to now, Tobagonians still can't get the audit report yet to show how Tricky Tracy thief money and how much she thief. We're still waiting. Still waiting on that. Just like we're still waiting on the report from the goodly Prime Minister to show that there is a forex cartel in Trinidad that her central bank governor said does not exist. It is essentially a figment of her imagination. But she doubled down and said, don't worry, the report coming soon. Just like the crime plan. Still can't see it yet. 6 months gone. No crime plan. Promise made. Waiting for it to be kept. Fali. So if anybody know how to twist and turn, to lie, to deceive, to get into office, you, sir. And your boy, Watson, who has now endorsed you and will not be contesting, probably hoping to get a little blind, right? You all wrote the book on how to twist and turn and lie because you learned well from your handlers in Trinidad, your puppet masters in Trinidad, who sent up money. Up to now, you haven't addressed the issue of the recording, just so you're not entertaining no foolishness tonight. And typical Trinidad fashion, 9-day wonder, everybody forget about that. Audiogate, everybody forget about that. What's under the bridge? Neither one of those two things so far. I have not listened to the entirety of the campaign, but I have not heard it mentioned. Maybe if Ansel and they was deceitful as you and Watson, they would have been talking about that, right? But Tobago people don't seem to be interested in that. Yeah. But you out there referring to PNM supporters as Satan children, right? Satan children. So like you forget the oath of office that you also took to do right by all people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. But when you could, for 4 years, calling PNM supporters house slaves, right? House slaves. All kind of thing you say about Dr. Rowley. The Red Devils, according to Watson, referred to PNM supporters as Red Devils. And all your Red Devils, nothing for you. Nothing for you when the PDP win. Nothing for you. First thing you all did, disband a whole department in the division of quarries. 17 people sent home. Why? Because according to you, they were all political hires. Hired by the previous administration. The administration that preceded you. Political hires. You didn't see them as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. You didn't see them as residents of Tobago. No. All you saw, Red Devils, Satan children, house slaves of the PNM. And send all of them home. How about the $1,000 that you all were supposed to pay? The ex gratia payment that you all promised. And year after year, you kept extending. Was that paid? I just asking the question, Vali. I'm curious. So just like Philip Alexander, nothing for people who vote red. Is it the same thing in Tobago? Satan children? The Red Devils? Nothing for them, as Watson said. So apparently in this country, you could support any political party except the PNM. And when the PNM in opposition, Crapo smoke the pipe of their supporters. Nothing for them. So in Tobago, nothing for them. Trinidad, nothing for them. But then some of them look for that. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa strikes again. Oh Lord. So I see Pararat responded to Dr. Rowley. Not surprised. So let me just read what Dr. Rowley had to say, right? Let me just get this here. So Dr. Rowley put out a statement recently, I think it was yesterday, with respect to, or was it this morning? I think it's this morning. He says, in all the years that I have lived during the entire life of this nation, 1962 to the present, I have never seen a more unpatriotic and recklessly incompetent leader than Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I have also never witnessed a more offensive statement about ourselves and our sovereign rights to agree or disagree on matters of concern to us and our wider interests and responsibilities. For the Prime Minister and her hapless government to reduce us to a vassal state, taking secret instructions from another country and issuing dire warnings that we should behave ourselves, lest we offend the United States and lose access to our visas, is to have torn up our constitution and declared that the very idea of our existence as a nation is not worthy of defense or vision. To so publicly withdraw from pertinent CARICOM issues and decisions is as close to being a dangerous fifth columnist as we could get. To wear the shame of that in the hope of reward and protection from the United States is as feckless and ignorant as one can be. Our nation is now oblivious to history and the feelings of others to whom she now genuflects not in mutual respect, but in obeisance and adoration. Well said. What a thing. This is a woman to whom a special majority was handed in a recent general election, who militarizes our islands, yet refuses to come before the nation to tell us what she has agreed to in her dealing with the US authorities, and who flatly refuses to stand before the local media to be questioned about her treacherous and defiant edicts. She even describes our urgent need to know as anti-American. For the future of this country, we hope that this ends soon, but it does not look too good. And Mr. Padarat responded, Rowley should stay in retirement, drink his rum for Christmas and shut his mouth. He did nothing to help our situation for 10 years. Watch a leader in action. The government stands strongly with the Honorable Prime Minister on her comments. Trinidad and Tobago has a leader that is confronting the challenges that we uniquely face in terms of national security. Uniquely face? Really, Barry? The Honorable Prime Minister is demonstrating that diplomacy is not about sitting on the fence and hoping for the best. Instead, it is about bold leadership, courageous decisions, and strategic alliances. For 10 years, Rowley used CARICOM as a boys' club to advance his own personal, myopic, selfish interest. CARICOM was never meant to be a spineless, toothless talk shop. We will not ignore the reality that the region continues to face with high incidence of gun trafficking, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. Neither would we cajole tyranny and despotism. The Prime Minister is redefining our foreign policy by decisive action that would bring tangible benefits to our nation, most importantly in the spheres of national and economic security. Her comments are directly aligned to taking on the deep-rooted problems that our nation is faced with after 10 years of PNM incompetence and inaction. Regional solidarity is not defined by living in a utopia that the Caribbean is a zone of peace. The Honorable Prime Minister is drawing the lines in the sand in terms of where Trinidad and Tobago stands. Therefore, we are fully in support of her position, like you have a choice, of Trinidad and Tobago first. Instead, Rowley should stay in retirement, drink his rum for Christmas, and shut his mouth on the issues that he helped to create, even though his laziness, through his laziness as TNT's worst Prime Minister ever, and ever is written in caps. So it is not enough that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar continues to make statements that is being interpreted by her CARICOM colleagues as being divisive, condemnatory of CARICOM. We now have the Deputy Prime Minister deciding to join in on that. But Mrs. Persad-Bissessar would have made a statement at the supper that Philip spoke about, where she warned citizens to behave yourselves. If you don't want to lose your visa, behave yourself. Stop bad talking and bad mouthing the United States of America. All right? Hush your mouth. Relax. Okay? You want to keep your visa? So it leaves one to wonder. Recently, when her Minister of Homeland Security would have indicated that he would have written to the US authorities asking them to revoke the visas of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who use social media as a platform for bad talking the government, bad mouthing the US, spreading propaganda about what is happening with respect to this issue with Venezuela and so on. We should take away their visas. Now we have Mrs. Prasad Bisesa telling you all, behave yourself or you could lose your visa. All right? Behave on yourself. Where is the defense of those persons who, anyway, let me not go there. So, as she was addressing the audience at the supper, she made reference to a recent development involving Antigua and Barbuda, where there was the Trump administration announced that there would be a suspension on visas, or rather the entry into the United States by visa holders who come from Antigua and Barbuda. Main reason being, Antigua and Barbuda has something called citizenship by investment, where if you invest in the country, you can apply for citizenship. And the issue that the Trump administration has is that, or they claim is that some persons, that there is not a residency requirement for that program, so that you can invest in Antigua and Barbuda, apply for citizenship, and you get through, and then you can now apply for a US visa as a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda. Persons who currently live in countries for which there is a travel ban, persons who live in countries for which there is a suspension of access to US visas. And so the claim is that persons from these countries are purchasing citizenship through the CBI in Antigua and Barbuda and Dominica, getting the citizenship and then applying for the US visas from these countries rather than their home country, which is on the US list of banned countries. And so they are able to get into the United States through the back door. And for that purpose, a decision was taken to suspend the entry of persons, visa holders from Antigua and Barbuda. And Mrs. Prasad Bisesa misrepresented what had happened, and drawing that as an example of what could happen to us in Trinidad and Tobago if we badmouth the US, if you cost the US. But it's not the first time she said that. In 2018 again, when there was a similar issue, President Trump, Nicolas Maduro, Juan Guaido, elections in Venezuela, right? People were displeased with the election outcome. They declared that Mr. Maduro was an illegitimate president and all of that. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa again mounted a platform as opposition leader, and she raised the same issue. Over 200,000 of our citizens have visas, US visas. And then there's some Caribbean Basin initiative, some security apparatus that is coming up very soon for renewal. And don't be surprised if they don't renew it, because your government, the government of the day, does not want to support the US and this and that. And they're siding with Maduro and all of that. She came back with this talk again. Always trying to gaslight you with visas. You could lose your visa if it is that you badmouth the US. So be careful. Hush your mouth. Well, Mr. Gaston Brown did not take too kindly to that, and he issued a statement yesterday in response to that, which I will read. CARICOM was advised by me that the issue was resolved and that it would be superfluous circulating the statement after the fact, and especially in consideration of their inertia and initial lukewarm support. Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the United States would have met with representatives, high-level representatives from the United States Department of State, and they discussed the issue, and he would have done a whole video that is available on social media that I looked at, and he spoke about what was the outcome, that the citizens of Antigua and Barbuda who already have visas, that they are not impacted and they can continue to travel to the United States as normal, unlike the impression that was given by Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. And they accuse us in the PNM of fear-mongering. What is that? What is that? He goes on to say, it was brought to my attention that one of our colleague heads, instead of standing in solidarity, publicly accused us of cursing the US administration. I challenged that leader to back her statement with facts. I wonder who he's talking about. Who is this colleague head? Instead of standing in solidarity, publicly accused us of cursing the US administration. I challenged that leader to back her statement with facts. The inertia and insularity within CARICOM continues to undermine the effectiveness of our integration movement. However, as hardcore integrationist and an internal optimist, or an eternal optimist rather, I remain hopeful for a stronger and more effective integration movement. So, Gaston Brown, the Prime Minister of Antigua, has thrown out a challenge to Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar. Back up your statement with facts, not conjecture and propaganda. Right? You're accusing me. You're accusing my country of cussing the US. He said that. Bring your facts. Bring proof. Since you know, and you could use my country as an example. And this is why Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar makes it more difficult. And I keep asking the question. The chairmanship of CARICOM is done by rotation, a 6-month rotation. So at some point in time during this 5-year term, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar is going to become the chairman of CARICOM. What is that going to look like? Because as chairman, I imagine she would have to chair the heads of government meeting. You are the chair. You are expected to speak on behalf of CARICOM, issue statements on behalf of CARICOM as the chairman. So is it that when the rotation comes to Trinidad and Tobago, she's going to say thanks but no thanks? I'm not interested. Bypass Trinidad and Tobago straight. Go to the next person. Bypass the opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago to be able to control the conversation because of her irresponsible utterances, her constant antagonism of CARICOM, and by extension, the heads of CARICOM. So that when she puts out a statement yesterday stating that CARICOM at this time remains an unreliable partner, how are they supposed to interpret that? And Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar needs to understand that when she does things like that, right, it affects us. And while her supporters keep talking about America is our biggest trading partner, and America is that's the talking point that they hand out to them. Just keep saying America is our biggest trading partner, and therefore we must do this and we must do that. Okay. But CARICOM, in the pecking order, where does CARICOM fall in terms of our manufactured goods? Because while we all may focus on the energy sector, the majority of the manufactured goods does not go to the United States of America. Because I can tell you, in all the states that I have traveled to in the United States, having gone to stores like Publix, Walmart, Costco, BJ's, I have never seen products from Trinidad and Tobago on the shelves in any of these establishments. None. I have looked for it. I think in one Walmart that I went to, I think one time I saw Cricks. But otherwise to that, I have not seen. If you go to the United States and you're feeling for a beer, Carib, where are they get that? You have to go and look for a West Indian store somewhere. You're feeling for any local delicacy, you have to go to some West Indian store somewhere. You're looking for curry, you're feeling to cook a curry, you go to Walmart, you're getting Grace Kennedy, you're getting things from Jamaica, nothing from Trinidad and Tobago in these stores. So CARICOM is our biggest market for our manufactured goods. And when you take positions like this and seek to badmouth, so in this case, you didn't just bad talk CARICOM. The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda has taken offense to your statement. And I am certain, just as we in Trinidad have seen this statement, we have read it and we are aware of it, the citizens of Antigua and Barbuda are also aware of it. And they may not take too kindly to the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, want to wash her mouth on them and accuse them of things that they are not guilty of, to misrepresent the situation, who appreciate the hard work that their government and its representatives are doing to fix the situation. And then you have the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who seemingly looking for an invitation to the White House, looking to get an opportunity to sit down in the Oval Office, is misrepresenting what the reality is, having one of her colleague heads having to call her out to bring facts. And rather than treat with the issue, you put out another statement, scathing. Let me see if I find that one. And then you have your minister, who everybody sees as being the deputy prime minister, deciding to double down on the foolishness to reinforce what you put out. I am certain Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa has not attended a single CARICOM meeting since she has become prime minister. Not one. And with each passing day, when she puts out statements like this, she makes it even more difficult for her to do so. She went to the United Nations General Assembly in New York and didn't take a single picture with any one of her colleague heads. Not one. But they want to cuss Penny. Penny went. She was invited to side meetings and so on. And while she was there, she took the opportunity. There are pictures with Penny with Mia Mottley. Pictures with Penny and then Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonzalez. Pictures with Penny and the Prime Minister of Jamaica. But Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa doesn't have a single picture with any of her her CARICOM colleagues. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? They didn't seek her out. She probably didn't seek them out. They didn't care to have a picture with her. And I am certain that when her time comes to demit office, that in the same way that Dr. Rowley, when he decided to take his leave, and we heard of how the heads of government in CARICOM sang his praises at the final meeting that he attended, I highly doubt Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa will receive similar reception. Highly doubt it. And while she's great, announcing with great aplomb, doctors from Trinidad, we sign agreement with Guyana, and doctors from Trinidad will go to Guyana and so on. Guyana stands, the president of Guyana stands as a proud member of CARICOM. Very proud member of CARICOM. His country faced a greater reality, a more significant, a more real possibility of invasion or some sort of military action from Venezuela than we ever did. And you never hear Irfaan Ali talk the way Pasabi-Sessa talk. Never. When it is that he went to the United States and then we saw there was some, that would have been more than a year ago, I think there was some, around the same time after he had spoken with the US and stuff, we saw some US military craft had come to Guyana and they were doing some training and so on. And Mr. Maduro was like, oh, what's the need for that? Oh gosh, come now, relax on yourself. Pat down now. What is that? Even then, they didn't have this set of animosity that exists. So we have, imagine, we have Venezuela attacking, well, I don't want to use the word attacking, but Venezuela having to throw words for our government more so than the government of Guyana. You see, because Irfaan Ali knows how to conduct himself. He knows how to, he understands diplomacy. He understands that Mr. Trump wouldn't always be there. Mr. Maduro wouldn't always be there. And all of this damage that Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa is doing now, she needs to bear in mind, you will not always be prime minister. And you are creating a big mess for whoever comes after you to clean up and to fix. And while you may be able to fix it at the government level, the citizens, the ordinary citizens of these countries might not be so forgiving. Let's just put it that way. So that when our citizens decide to go for a vacation to Antigua and they hear the Trini accent and they decide to watch your side eye, and the hospitality suddenly dips because when they realize, well, you from Trinidad, your prime minister want to play she bad talking and bad mouthing us and disrespecting our prime minister, persona non grata, all in welcome here. To do expect no proper service from us. The Prime Minister of Jamaica had to make the point that when he came into office in 2016, the first foreign leader that he met with was Dr. Rowley to try and iron out and to treat with the issues that emanated as a result of, or what was inherited from the People's Partnership Administration. The sour relations between Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago, where it is that you had the citizens of Jamaica calling for a boycott of Trinidad and Tobago's manufactured products. At a time in this country when it is the manufacturing sector that is carrying the government purse, the majority of the tax dollars that are coming from the manufacturing sector that is now starting to really come into its own. And you coming to do these kind of things to sour that? Are you serious? And it's not, this time it's not just one country, you know. Let me see if I find the statement. Where is it? Never a dull moment with this lady. And her supporters will find a way to excuse that. Where is the Ralph Maraj article today? Where is it? Where are you, Ralph? First, Dr. Rowley had said that bet your bottom dollar they would interview you this morning on I-95 or something of the sort. So let me get this here. Media statement by Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Our national interest first. We must all live with the consequences of our actions. So that's slap in the face number one for Gaston. On December 16, 2025, the US government issued a fact sheet outlining the decision by United States President Donald J. Trump to further restrict and limit the entry of certain foreign nationals in the interest of the United States national security. The fact sheet detailed the justification for the partial suspension of entry for immigrants and non-immigrants under the B1, B2, B1, B2, F, M, and J visa categories and referenced the historical operation of citizenship by investment programs. Hear what she said, right? The citizen by investment programs without residency requirements in both Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda. I have taken note of a subsequent statement issued by the Bureau of the Conference of Heads of Government of the CARICOM. In its statement, the Bureau expressed concern about the restrictions that the US government announced on December 16, 2025. I advise citizens that the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is not a party to the statement issued by the Bureau of the Conference of Heads of Government. So she wants to make it clear to you all that statement that was put out by CARICOM, right, that was endorsed by all the other leaders except Trinidad and Tobago. Okay? She wants you to know she had no part in that. Okay, so she wants to let up north know as well. She has no part in that either, right? She's not with them. She doesn't stand with them. Trinidad and Tobago, who she's supposed to speak for. In this instance, she's not speaking for me. I'll tell you that. I hold the view. No, she goes further to say, however, the Trinidad and Tobago government maintains its own position on the matter and recognizes the sovereign right of the United States to make decisions in furtherance of its best interest. Nobody disputes that. Nobody has an issue with that. I hold the view that every sovereign state is responsible for its foreign and domestic policy choices and must be prepared to accept the concomitant consequences. The exercise of power by the United States of America to advance their best interests must therefore be seen as a measured response to the conduct of their nation, of other nations in the realities of the current environments that they place themselves in. Trinidad and Tobago's government does not bind itself to the political ideologies of foreign, economic, and security policies of any other CARICOM member government. Member governments are free to make decisions in the best interests of their citizens. CARICOM is not a reliable partner at this time, so she felt she needed to put that line in there. The fact that beneath the thin mask of unity, there are many widening fissures that, if left unaddressed, will lead to its implosion. The organization is deteriorating rapidly, hear this, right? Due to poor management, lax accountability, factional divisions, destabilizing policies, private conflicts between regional leaders and political parties, and hear this one, the inappropriate meddling in the domestic politics of member states. That is the plain truth. If there is one statement in this statement that is true, Mrs. Persad-Bissessar, the inappropriate meddling in the domestic politics of member states, because we just saw the conclusion of general elections in 2 CARICOM states, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where you had operatives of the United National Congress, the party that you lead, were in St. Vincent and the Grenadines meddling in their internal politics, their domestic politics. They were in St. Lucia. You had one of your councillors on record as having said that he was given instructions and he is carrying out those instructions. He was given a mandate to go to St. Lucia and to campaign for and on behalf of the opposition party, right? We saw him in videos with the opposition leader over there. He claimed that he received a mandate. He's a part of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and he received a mandate and he's doing his job. We saw it again with UNC operatives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We saw where one of your ministers launched an attack on the then sitting Prime Minister of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a sustained attack which you endorsed, madam, which he claims contributed to the loss of the general election in St. Vincent and the Grenadines by the then ruling party. Several members of your party who consider themselves to be social media influencers, who consider themselves to be activists, went to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The likes of Andy Williams from the Underground Report, this other one, Stark from Stark Entertainment, as he calls it, as the case may be, who were on the ground. You had several local artists who have aligned themselves with UNC, the like of Orlando Octave and Swappy and others who were on the ground in St. Lucia, campaigning on Yellow is the Code. We had your minister, Mr. Foot and Mouth Disease, doing a live talking about how the Yellow is the Code wave is moving up the Caribbean and the work that you have done and so on, and how it's impacting on the rest of the Caribbean, and it's the yellow wave and all of this. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines lost, they were successful there, and then they're going to continue with St. Lucia and then move up. And then it's Barbados next, and all of these things we saw persons from your party talking about, madam. So you are very correct. The only correct line that you said in that statement, the only correct line. Let me get it back here. I tell you, if audacity and shamelessness was a person. I continue. Let me repeat that paragraph. The organization is deteriorating rapidly due to poor management. So that is an indictment on whoever is the chairman of CARICOM now, right? Forgive me, I don't know who it is. I think it's Mia Motley. I could be wrong. I think it's Mia. Lacks accountability, factional divisions, destabilizing policies, private conflicts between regional leaders and political parties, and the inappropriate meddling in the domestic politics of member states. Out of your own mouth comes your judgment, madam. If there is a single political party in all of the Caribbean that is guilty of that, it is the United National Congress led by your good self, madam. And I challenge you to point to any, and you know she's talking about here? I think it was in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that Barbados, I think, would have sent some members of the party would have gone to St. Vincent and the Grenadines to assist. And if that is what she's speaking to, how shameless can you be? To totally ignore what your minister did. That you made a public announcement that you were sanctioning an investigation into how Ralph Gonzalez's daughter was able to get a rent-to-own unit. Never mind the fact that she's a citizen by descent. A citizen by descent, and therefore she is entitled. What is the status of that investigation? You all talk about that for more than a week. That was the main talking point. Every day, Mr. Roberts doing doubles and coffee. Ralph this, Ralph that, Ralph this, Ralph that. Election done and Ralph lost. Right? He's the only person, the lone ranger representing his party now. And all of a sudden, Victoria Keys doesn't matter anymore. All of a sudden, what is the status? How long does it take to do an investigation? The HGC still investigating? It was so important, so pressing, that we had to address it. Send it to the police, all kind of nonsense. The election done, Ralph lost, and all of a sudden, we move on. That's not important anymore. No more calls from your supporters for Soleil to return the apartment. No calls. No calls for Ralph and his family to give back the 3 apartments to the deserving citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who on the waiting list at the HGC for so long and can't get an apartment. Well, it have over 100 still available. How many applied? How many of those who have been on the waiting list, how many of them went to the open house and put in an application? Since they qualified, And That wasn't important anymore. Hypocrisy. I tell you. Anyway. She goes on to say, CARICOM cannot continue to operate in this dysfunctional and self-destructive manner, as it is a grave disservice to the people of the Caribbean. The Caribbean community must face the rot within the organization with transparency and honesty. Transparency and honesty. You have ministers in your government who are before the court. One of them is before the court on $1 million bail for fraud. Another one is facing a civil suit for, again, fraud, bid rigging, conspiracy, among other things. And you have the temerity and the unmitigated gall, madam, to talk about transparency and honesty. You who have been flip-flopping and have been totally dishonest with the population over the last couple of weeks as it pertains to the radar, as it pertains to the presence of US military forces in this country. You who practically admitted that you deceived the population with respect to the radar when you said, well, you couldn't speak about it and then because you didn't want to disclose or whatever and to give the drug runners the heads up or whatever. Your story keeps changing, madam. And you want to talk about transparency and honesty? Really? You who characterized what happened in the Piarco Airport scandal, according to Bob Lindquist, the biggest act of fraud ever perpetrated on the citizens of our country. Bob Lindquist, independent forensic auditor, said that. You who sought to characterize that whole affair as a 23-year PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. And then when it is that More Than Flour and a particular TV station started to reveal the contents of the inquiry, the commission of inquiry into that whole affair, and you could deny it no more, you change your story. Well, don't blame my administration. That happened under Pandey. That has nothing to do with me. But you are part of the Pandey administration, madam. Let us not forget that after Pandey fired Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, he appointed you as the Attorney General. And rather than focus on the contents of the report, the preliminary report that was submitted by Mr. Lindquist, which pointed to significant corruption in that project, what did you try to do? Based on reports? To fire Mr. Lindquist and to fire Carl Hudson Phillips, the two main men who were responsible for unearthing the wrongdoing that had taken place in that project. That was your main focus. How, as Attorney General, you could get rid of these two men. No attempt whatsoever to continue the investigation to bring the wrongdoers to justice, despite the fact that the person who is today your Minister of Works and Infrastructure, at the time was also Minister of Works and Infrastructure, and after attending just one interministerial meeting, went to the Prime Minister and told him that that project was corrupt based on what she would have seen and heard. She said the greed was palpable. Her words, her testimony in the Commission of Inquiry, to the point where she cried in the inquiry. And she said that Mr. Pandey told her, I know, I am aware, it is a feeding frenzy, a milch cow. The man who was in charge of government at the time told Jolene John that. She testified to that. He never denied it. But then you maintained for that 23 years, it was just a PNM smear campaign designed to make the UNC look corrupt. And in the face of hardcore evidence and testimony, when you could no longer maintain that nonsensical narrative, you decide to throw Pandey under the bus and say that happened under his administration. Nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my administration. But you have several people in your administration with questions to answer. Several people in your administration today, some of them you hand-selected and foist them on the citizens of this country, despite the fact that they were rejected. You put them in the Senate and made them ministers, madam. And we just had a couple weeks ago, a report come out revealing to us further details about what happened with live sport and how this man stole a significant amount of money from the citizens of this country. Right? And $8 million we never heard about before. how it was shared up among certain people, and some of it was used to pay for wedding and all of that. And in the face of all of that, you had nothing to say. 3 weeks of reporting, 3 weeks of revelations, and not one word came from him. This is a man who was uncharacteristically quiet about that report. A report that spoke to him, said nothing, not a single doubles and coffee, not a single Douglas politics. He absolutely refused to address that issue, despite calls from citizens for him to speak on it. Despite what was reported pointed directly to him. The only thing they didn't do was mention his name. But there were several matters, several things that were said in those reports that pointed directly to him, that brought his reputation into question, his credibility into question. And yet still, this man sits as a minister. Every opportunity he gets, he comes on social media to cuss the PNM, say the worst of things about people, the nastiest of things to tarnish people's characters. That is what he's about. But you are not concerned about that. So you have at least 4 ministers. We'll make it 5. Your Minister of Housing is before the court. Your Minister of Energy is before the court. Two of your junior ministers should have questions to answer. One is the subject of a police investigation with respect to live sport and possible involvement with respect to a murder attempt or an attempt on the life of a DJ. You have the other one who has questions to answer with respect to a number of projects that he was a part of, the Jericho project, the Cans of Hope project, and all of these different things where persons claim to have been conned, right? And then you have another minister who is the subject of police investigation into human trafficking and prostitution. All 5 of them endorsed by you. And you want to talk about transparency and honesty? You can't be serious. In the words of Patrick Manning, you could do that. You can't do that. Come now, man. Let's get serious. Let me finish off that, right? Deal with it. And it is unfortunate that all of Mrs. Posabi Sessa's attack dogs take their cue from her. And they couldn't give a damn. And while they continue to damage our reputation in CARICOM, and as I said before, while it may be easier to mend fences at the heads level, it would not be so easy to mend it at the lower level, the grassroots level, when you offend the citizens of these countries, when you disrespect their leaders. Because you see, the same way your supporters ready to fight anybody, all Ralph Gonsalves simply said, right, was that, I mean, he made a comment with respect to your position regarding this whole bombing of alleged narcotics boats. And I think he simply said that you were misguided or something like that. The man never attacked you in no way, no, simply said that you were misguided. And all of your attack dogs came out, all of your supporters ready to kill Ralph, to string him up, to lynch him. They took offense to him saying something that they deemed to be offensive to you. You don't think in the other countries, CARICOM countries, that when you say something that is deemed offensive to their leaders, that they are not going to take a similar position? And how could they respond? We're not buying nothing from Trinidad. Or they could put it on the shelf, we're leaving it right there. And if there is no demand, what's going to happen? Where is the Manufacturers Association? Aren't you all concerned at the impact that this is going to have on you all? It's more than a couple months now, Mrs. Posabi Sessa said that we need to start looking outside, to markets outside of CARICOM. What have you all done to advance that cause? When in 2016, Dr. Rowley was able to sign off on a deal with Venezuela for you all to provide the manufacturing sector in Trinidad and Tobago to provide $50 million of goods every month, revolving line of credit. I have spoken about this on numerous occasions. The then head of ETTMA, Rolf Balgobin, was highly condemnatory of the Manufacturers Association, said you all have an opportunity to get $50 million a month and couldn't even muster $26 million worth of goods. And a lot of what Venezuela needed, we could not provide. And as he said, but every Monday morning, all you're complaining, we can't get Forex, we can't get Forex, we can't get Forex. And here's an opportunity to get $50 million in foreign exchange every month, and you all cannot rise to the occasion. And here it is that you have a government that is now and a prime minister who has decided to go to war with CARICOM. And as I said, you're not only going to war with the leadership, because I'm sure when they have their meetings, they'll be talking about you, and not in any good way. She says, an organization, right. She goes on to say, the CARICOM or the Caribbean community must face the rot within the organization with transparency and honesty. Hiding behind the glibness of diplomacy, fake sophistication, and false narratives is self-defeating. An organization that chooses to disparage our greatest ally, the United States, but lends support to the Maduro narco government, headed by a dictator who has imprisoned and killed thousands of civilians and opposition members, as well as threatened 2 CARICOM members, is one that has clearly lost its way. There are repercussions for this stance, so we must all live with the consequences of our actions. Our citizens can rest assured that I will always make decisions that put Trinidad and Tobago first. CARICOM will not determine our future. Only the citizens of our country will choose our path. In other words, CARICOM could HYMC or HTMC, unfortunately, on behalf of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Sigh, how unfortunate. I wonder how the CARICOM heads received this statement from the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I wonder. Meanwhile, at the party that they had, let's see if I get it here. As you see here, the president of the PSA, you see her there? Does she seem upset about the non-cash as she was upset before? No, she's right there next to the Prime Minister. Yeah. Ah, boy. I see Mr. Bachelor has arrived. You got 10% back pay and a salary increase for the first time in over 10 years. This government makes sense rather than the other government nonsense. Winston. In case you weren't aware, there were other unions that got their 4%, right? They got a pay raise over the last 10 years. In case you're not aware, the last administration gave 3 increases in personal allowance, Winston. All right? As a result of that, the same 10% and back pay that you're talking about, had it not been for that decision by the last administration, a bigger chunk of the back pay was going to go into taxes, Winston. A bigger chunk of your pay increase, your 10% pay increase, would be going to taxes. Because when the last administration came in 2015, personal allowance was $60,000 a year. It is now $90,000, a 50% increase, Winston. All right? So, when you want to come and talk a pack of nonsense about this government making sense as opposed to the other government, really? I tell you, I would love to give you the opportunity to come to my office one Thursday and you sit down in my chair when these people come asking for help. And let me see you continue to talk that nonsense. Let me see how you're going to fix it. When you have a constant line of former CPAP workers and URP workers coming one after the next, when you're looking at the list and all you're seeing is reason for visit, employment, reason for visit, food support. One after, and all of these people were gainfully employed under the last administration, but they lost their jobs, have not been able to find jobs in the last 5 months or so, 4 to 5 months. So desperate are some of these people. Last week, Sunday, after the children's party, we had the lighting of the Christmas tree in my constituency of Malaba Mausika. All right? So the tree that started under Lisa Morris Julian, she had arranged for that tree with the assistance of MIC, and this year we decided to continue the tradition, so we lit the tree. How is it lit? Well, a 100-foot extension cord running from the tree, and it was hooked up, connected to electricity, right? This morning, my office manager had to message me to tell me that the extension cord was stolen. Okay? It was there last night. It is not there now. So some people, out of desperation, I am sure somebody stole that to sell it. Right? This is what is happening, Winston. But you saying this government making sense? I have spoken recently to one person who told me he had to move out of his accommodation, his rental accommodation, because his landlord increased his rent. And the amount that he increased it by, he could not afford to continue to pay because he lived in practically paycheck to paycheck. And the landlord told him it is because of this landlord surcharge that he has had to increase the rent. All right? Now he has had to move back in with his mother for the time being until he could find another place that he can afford. Who caused that? The last administration? But that making sense to you. As you said, you live between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know where you spend more time, but it doesn't matter. Either way, yeah. But that making sense to you, right? That's sense. You're talking about for the last 10 years, people wasn't talking about the 10%. Really? Really? Well, it can't be serious. Patti Kutu said, Dr. Oli had it very hard running Trinidad and Tobago after 2010 with a pandemic, after life sports, and with a dry treasury. And if you think I lie, ask Joala Rambaran. Unfortunate. Let's come here to talk Apaka nonsense, yes? Anyway, let me get this thing here. Just now. What's the time there? Oh, it's late, boy, and I'm supposed to go to the PNM's Christmas party, children's Christmas party. Just now. Right. So there was something else that I knew I had to touch on. There was an article that came out in the newspaper a few days ago that spoke about tightening liquidity in the banking sector. And for those of you who are regulars would have heard me talk about that even before that article came out. Where is it? Where is it? Right. Tighter liquidity conditions as banks' excess cash decreases. According to the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Report for November to December 2025, excess liquidity in commercial banks has fallen by almost half since May. You hear when? Since May. When did the UNC government come into office? The 1st of May 2025. Pushing up borrowing costs and slowing credit growth. Well done. Yes, Winston, this government makes sense, unlike the last government. That's good. Excess liquidity in Trinidad and Tobago's banking system has been slipping over the past months. According to the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Report, November to December 2025, excess liquidity in the commercial banks has fallen by almost half since May, pushing up borrowing costs. So interest rates have gone up and slowing credit. When demand is high, supply is low, so there are demand for loans, but there isn't sufficient cash to supply it. You increase your interest rates, make it more expensive, and therefore, for those persons whose DSR, debt service ratio, would not allow them to afford the loan at the increased interest rate, which increases the monthly installment, they will be pushed aside, and only those who could afford would get through, albeit it's more expensive. Liquidity refers to the pool of readily available cash circulating within the banking system. Excess liquidity is the money in the banking system that is left over after commercial banks have met specific requirements to hold minimum levels of reserves. The report indicated that liquidity has been steadily affected. Between May and October 2025, the daily average excess liquidity in the banking system declined from approximately 6.6 billion to 3.5 billion. This contraction, detailed in the report's assessment of domestic financial conditions, occurred even as the fiscal injections continued and monetary policy settings remained unchanged. The central bank attributed the liquidity drawdown to a combination of factors. Although fiscal operations injected approximately 1.9 billion into the system between May and October, this was outweighed by other drains. Open market operations resulted in net maturities, while the central bank foreign reserve exchange sales to authorized dealers indirectly removed more than $4.5 billion from the system over the same period. As liquidity declined, activity in the interbank and repurchase markets increased, as seen by the hike in the daily average interbank borrowing. So in other words, banks have been borrowing from each other, right, to be able to meet their cash needs. From 205.1 million between May and October 2025. This is nearly double the level recorded during the same period in 2024 when the PNM was in office. Usage of the central bank's overnight repurchase facility also increased, particularly between August and October. Short-term interest rates responded accordingly, as seen by the rise in the 91-day Treasury bill rate by 52 basis points over the review period, reaching 2.66% by October. Commercial bank lending rates also increased, with the weighted average lending rate edging up to 6.72% by September. What say you, Winston? How are you blaming the PNM for that? And I told you all about that I have a friend who is senior staff, who is a manager at Central Bank. And I had asked him the question, given this liquidity issue and this tightening of excess liquidity, how is the government going to get the money to be able to pay the 10% and the back pay, since the minister indicated that he is going to have a conversation with Republic Bank and the NIB, the beleaguered NIB that does not have sufficient money to pay its liabilities. And the person said, that's a problem for them to deal with, right? So now the government is competing. And if the government finds itself in a situation where they need to draw down on this excess liquidity, crap or smoke all your pipe. 1 billion withdrawn from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. People are asking, what was that money used for? Was that included in this 4.5 billion? Was it? I just asking. Where are the experts? Where are the men and women of letters and all of the economists weighing on this and to tell the country what will be the fallout from this? Where are they? Very quiet. All of the letter writers, people who used to write the letters to the editor and have an opinion, where are they now? Silent. You're not hearing them. Nothing to say? I just asking the question. Let me get this here. What's happening with the foreign exchange? It's been almost 8 months in office. The UNC said they had the solution. Put us in office and we'll fix it. December 19th, 2025, 2 days ago, media release. The Chamber calls for urgent collective action to address foreign exchange crisis. This is the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce has released a comprehensive position paper outlining the scale, causes, and solutions to the country's worsening foreign exchange crisis, warning that inaction is no longer a viable option for the national economy. So is it that the chamber is saying that the government is doing nothing but sitting on their hands? Not to mention the fact that since this administration came into office, the country's foreign reserves has fallen by over 600 million US between May, well, I can't say between May and December. You know why? Because I visited the central bank website to try and get some information as to the status of the country's current foreign reserves position. There is no data for the end of October. There is no data for the end of November. And as we speak, there is no data available for December. But when you look from way back, the chart goes all the way back to the early 1990s. There is data. But all of a sudden, the central bank seems to have lost its ability to generate up-to-date statistics. Persons who are in school and who are studying economics and so on and who need this data. Once upon a time, you could have gone to the reliable central bank website where one would assume that there is an entire department that is charged with the responsibility to generate this information on a daily basis to ensure that it is there for the decision makers to be able to get the information and make decisions. But when you go on the website for the last couple of weeks, nothing available for October, nothing available for November, and December, blank. All you're seeing is N/D. So I'm assuming that means no data. No data. What is CSO using? Because last I checked, the central bank has direct responsibility for the country's foreign reserves, right? So if anybody should know, they should know. So why is it that on your website that publishes this information, it is not there? I'm just asking. Oh boy. Let me just continue this here. The TT Chamber emphasizes that the foreign exchange shortages is now a nationally recognized challenge, affecting businesses of all sizes, households, and the country's long-term development prospects. Persistent shortages, growing uncertainty, and widening market distortions are undermining business continuity, weakening investor confidence, and constraining economic diversification. This is Trinidad and Tobago's Chamber of Commerce telling us that our current foreign exchange situation, persistent shortages, growing uncertainty, widening market distortions are undermining business continuity. You know what that means? Businesses are closing because they cannot get foreign exchange. They would have expected, some of them voted for the UNC. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Really? Okay. It's undermining business continuity. Businesses are struggling. If they can't get US, they had to close their doors. Weakening investor confidence. Which investors do you think they're talking about? Jolene John, Saddam Hussein, and Sean Subas just came back from a nice trip in the Middle East. I'm sure they traveled business class, first class, and they enjoyed themselves. And they went to sell Trinidad and Tobago and to sell the government's national revitalization project to look for investors. They have come back at least 2 weeks now. Have we heard any report? Did they hold a press conference to say, we were successful, we got this, we got this, we got this, we signed this, we signed this, we signed this, and the country can look forward to this, this, and this? 2 weeks later, nothing? One would have thought that at one of the post-cabinet press briefings, you would have had each of these ministers come, even if it's just the three of them alone, to come and report to the country what was the outcome of their beautiful trip to the Middle East. That happened under great cost to you, the taxpayer. Don't you think you deserve to hear if they were successful and what the country could look forward to? I think the fact that 2 weeks later, you're nothing yet speaks volumes. Just saying. The position paper highlights that there is now broad national awareness that the existing framework is under strain. Businesses across sectors are experiencing delayed access to foreign currency, rising operating costs, and reduced competitiveness, while black market activity signals deeper market imbalance. Wait, you mean the cartel still existing? The cartel that Mrs. Pasabi says, they didn't fix it? Okay. But I thought when UNC wins, they have the answers, the solutions to everything. The TT Chamber stresses that these conditions are not sustainable and will worsen over time if left unaddressed. I read that and all I'm seeing in my mind is Moody's, downgrade, Jamaica, which just went through the most significant and devastating hurricane in the last 37 years. They got an upgrade. Moody's upgraded their rating, right? Their credit rating. We get a downgrade. We didn't go through any hurricane, well, except Hurricane UNC. 8 months of Hurricane UNC. In this context, the TT Chamber is calling on all stakeholders to rally around a shared objective, restoring foreign exchange availability, predictability, and confidence in the system. This includes open engagement on exchange rate policy. Wait, you mean there is no transparency on that matter, on foreign exchange policy? Wow. Isn't that, I thought that's why they fire Hele and they put Hawaii? No transparency? Okay. Measures to expand and diversify forex inflows. You mean that's not happening? Institutional reforms to improve competitiveness and transparent communication to reduce uncertainty. But isn't that what the UNC promised? Promise made, we waiting for kept and delivered. 8 months later, all right. The TT Chamber reaffirmed its commitment. This includes open engagement on exchange policy measures to expand and diversify forex inflows, institutional reforms to improve competitiveness, and transparent communication to reduce uncertainty. Critically, the TT Chamber warns that doing nothing is not an option. So is the Chamber telling us that the government is doing nothing? Are they looking to get blacklist? Delaying reform risks entrenching shortages, accelerating capital flight. What you say? Accelerating capital flight? You mean money is leaving Trinidad and Tobago? But I thought that only happens under the PNM, not under the UNC. So these businesses and investors didn't get the memo that the UNC is in power now, and when UNC wins, everybody wins. So why are they still sending their money abroad? Okay. Widening market distortions and ultimately forcing a more disruptive and costly adjustment in the future. Is that a fancy way of saying devaluation? No, Stuart Chung is being alarmist and the PNM is just on propaganda. They will say that the Chamber is a PNM party group. By contrast, timely coordinated action offers a more orderly and credible path towards stability. The TT Chamber reaffirmed its commitment to constructive engagement with policymakers, regulations, and the wider society, or regulators rather, and stands ready to contribute research, data, and private sector perspectives to support a national solution to the foreign exchange challenge. This reminds me of a similar media release that this very same chamber had to put out in 2012, 2013, I think was the last one. Yeah. But you know what they would say? They didn't put out no, the PNM. There's a PNM party group and they're against the UNC. They fired Winston Dukaran's son from the Exim Bank because they say, the distribution of the foreign exchange under the Exim Bank. And the problem still ain't fixed. Did they appoint a replacement for this gentleman? Okay. I just asking, right? For more details, please see the attached working paper addressing forex challenges, the way forward, updated, and there's an attached PDF to read. But I thought when the UNC, when you're supposed to be able to go to the bank and get any amount of US that you want, any amount of foreign exchange that you want. No longer 200, that was because of the PNM. And then, of course, you have the supporters of the UNC saying, well, it's because they shut down the refinery. And the refinery was the main. Let me get it there. That's what. People who are supposed to be bright, who consider themselves to be bright. Let me pull up this man. One Surudratan Rambachan. Where is it? The TT Chamber recommends a market force rate for US dollars. Another word for devaluation. So you see, I was right. Tell them, go to hell. You tell me party, country before party, and go to hell. Their bread is buttered. Do they know how the middle and lower classes survive in TNT? I vehemently oppose devaluation. Speak out. Suruj. Oh boy. Where is it? That's not it. Let's see. From Ambassador Ralph Maraj. This was 3 days ago, right? With all that has been happening and between Trinidad and Tobago, CARICOM, and so on. Listen to what Ralph chose to write about. Not what his portfolio entails. Here, Ralph. In 2018, the ambassador of former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley shut down our oil refinery, an entity fundamental to the national economy and which created employment for over 10,000 people directly and indirectly. I termed this shutdown the Petrotrin sin from which we continue to bleed. So he was concerned about 10,000 people lost their jobs when the refinery shut down, but 70,000 people fired in less than 8 months. He's not concerned about that. Of course not, right? Because you're on the government's payroll. You ambassador His Excellency Ralph Maraj. It is at the heart of the foreign exchange crisis we face today. Petrotrin's refined products earned, listen to this, Petrotrin's refined products earned a gross US $350 million annually. Between 2018 and 2024, this country spent over $7.65 billion to import gasoline, jet kerosene, diesel, LPG, fuel, and bitumen, products that the refinery once produced. But you know what he forgot to tell us? While he mentions that Petrotrin's refined products earned a gross US $350 million annually, and he tells us that between 2018 and 2024, the country spent over US $7.65 billion to import gasoline. What he failed to tell us is how much money did we spend to import oil on a daily basis. Over 100,000 barrels of oil every day to provide for the refinery throughput, because we did not have the oil here, Ralph. And whenever I hear UNC supporters talking about how Petrotrin and the refinery used to generate so much foreign exchange, and it's because of that we have the foreign exchange problem. But in 2013, the refinery was up and running, was it not? Let me remind all you. Then my last thing for today. All right? Last for today. I might be able to do something during the week because we're heading into the Christmas season. Our kind of Parliament is on recess, and I kind of wind down professionally, right, for the next 3 days. But let me just get this here. Yes, Noah. All right, so I just read for you all the release from the Chamber of Commerce, right? Let me read this one dated May 15, 2014. Now, Ralph Maraj said the closure of the Petrotrin refinery is at the heart of the forex problem that we are having in Trinidad and Tobago today. May 15, 2014, from the Chamber of Commerce for immediate release to all news editors. The Chamber helps find solutions to U.S. foreign exchange shortage. May 15, 2014, the refinery was up and running. On the 15th of May, 2014, the Petrotrin refinery was generating revenue according to Ralph, right, and earning forex. The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce believes that the time is now to collaborate on a solution for the perennial challenge being experienced by the business community in obtaining U.S. currency. The perennial challenge. You know what? So that means it didn't just happen in 2014. And since 2024 and 2025 and 2018 is after 2014, it means the perennial challenge that they were speaking about here is the years prior to 2014. The years prior to the issuance of this communique dated the 15th of May, 2014. I am reminding the UNC supporters, the Petrotrin refinery was up and running and operational on the 15th of May, 2014. It would be another 4.5 years before it was closed. But all you see is the closure of the refinery that caused the forex shortage in Trinidad. The 15th of May, 2014, the People's Partnership was in government and Kamla Persad-Bissessar was the Prime Minister. I continue. In September 2013, the Chamber spoke directly with some of our members who indicated that they were again experiencing a severe shortage of foreign exchange to meet their various companies' operational needs and payments to their suppliers. Not just a shortage, a severe shortage. Since 2013, who was in government? Not the PNM. The refinery was up and running. I continue. A follow-up survey in 2014 has indicated that our business community is continuing to be plagued by the lack of available foreign exchange in US dollars in the local market. Apparently, the Petrotrin refinery didn't get that memo that they needed to churn out more foreign exchange. But Ralph said in 2025, just 3 days ago, that the reason for the shortage of foreign exchange is because of the closure of the refinery. Nothing else but that. That is the sole reason. So apparently, the Chamber of Commerce, in 2014, all of them was mad. I continue. in spite of the central banks, right, new system of allocation of US dollars to the authorized dealers, and despite the recent further injection of US 50 million into the local foreign exchange market, a third follow-up survey with our members has indicated that the situation has not improved. This is the 15th of May, 2014. Again, I stress, the Petrotrin refinery was up and running. So how come we were having this severe forex shortage and the refinery was up and running? And Ralph said that is the sole reason for the shortage today. So Ralph, help me out now. You are an intellectual. You are the big word man. You are His Excellency. I am not. Right? I'm supposed to be honorable. Some people say I'm not. Because they say if you're in your position, you're not supposed to be, you're not honorable. I don't know. But I am not His Excellency. That's Ralph. Some of our businesses are experiencing severe difficulties with respect to meeting their foreign exchange needs to pay suppliers for imported goods, which can have a detrimental impact on their operations and the viability of their businesses, says Katrin Kumar, CEO of the Chamber. Our members have also expressed some concern with the new arrangement for allocation to the authorized dealers. The private sector is now being advised to shop around for foreign exchange, but this is not an efficient way for them to conduct their business. And even when this is done, their requirements are not being met. Additionally, the business purchaser ends up paying a higher rate for their US dollars. You mean that was happening back then, 2013, 2014, under the People's Partnership Government, the leadership of the erudite, the brilliant Kamla Prasad Bisesa, SC MP? Given the current scenario, the Chamber will be hosting a meeting on June 6th at the Chamber building, which will bring together the business community, the president of the Business Association, and the governor of the central bank to allow direct conversation and understanding of each party's roles in the distribution of US dollars. As always, the Chamber will promote a collaborative approach to provide meaningful recommendations for resolving the current situation in a sustainable manner. 2014. The refinery was running. The refinery was in operation. And according to UNC supporters, the refinery was making money. It was making profits. Help me. So what was the problem then? What was the problem then? Couldn't be the refinery because it was open. Help me now. You see what the PNM inherited? You see what Dr. Rowley inherited in 2015? It didn't start under the PNM. It didn't start after September 7. Contrary to the narrative that the UNC supporters would have you believe, the forex shortage didn't start when the PNM came. It didn't start under the Duen, the engineer, the square peg in the wrong hole that Rowley put to be the Minister of Finance. The only Minister of Finance in the last 14 years, last 15 years to realize a budget surplus in 2022, despite being a square peg in a round hole. Not even the man who now sits as the central bank governor and who received $11.625 million to leave First Citizens Bank as its CEO to become the Minister of Finance. Not even he was able to deliver a budget surplus. But Imbut, the engineer, the square peg, the Duen, he was able to do it. So we just put in the facts out there. So when Ralph Maraj wants to publish such utter rubbish, garbage, nonsense, talk about your portfolio. What are you doing, Ralph, to quell the situation between your Prime Minister and this worsening situation in terms of relations with CARICOM? What are you doing, Ralph? That's your work. Are you drawing salary and drawing pay under false pretenses, Ralph? Tell us what you're doing. They appointed you to fix that. You are supposed to be the go-between, the liaison between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and CARICOM. You are the ambassador to CARICOM. What you doing? You just sit on home and type in rubbish and trying to see how you could join the bandwagon to cost the PNM instead of doing your work. But then that's part of the course for appointees of this government. Just ask Anil Roberts, David Naked, and Philip Edward Alexander, and a few other cabinet ministers. Ask them. Oh yes. Wasted no time in buying Prados and Pajeros and Fortunas and Mercedes, all these nice beautiful vehicles. That's priority. Not doing the business for which they were elected. And right now, this country is suffering from a severe case of voters' remorse. But I told you all, make the wrong decision. You can't go back to the EBC and say, I make a mistake, I will back my vote. You have to wait until 2030 to do that. Refinery was overstaffed by thousands. That's what put the refinery in bankruptcy. It would have made money if it wasn't overstaffed. Rowley was laying off 2,700 jobs to make the refinery profitable. Really? Of course. The Jamnagar refinery in India, refining over 1.2 million barrels of oil per day, had a staff of 2,700 workers. Petrotrin had more than double that. And they were refining 10% of what the Jamnagar oil refinery was producing. But when it was being said that the staffing cost was the single largest contributor to the losses at Petrotrin. Well, what Roger said? What did Roger say? And the rest of them in the trade union movement. Comrade Elda. Elda and I good now. He helped me out. So I'll give him a blind. Right? He helped me out. But still, Mr. Collateral damage. Right? Comrade Kiza, where are you guys? What did you all say then? No, don't blame the workers. Workers doing the work. Petrotrin need to get their act together. Go and read the article that Kevin Ramnarine, the statement he made in the Parliament, in the Senate in 2014, December, time to build up, not tear down Petrotrin. Go and read it. I've read it many times here. And understand what the situation was with Petrotrin at the time. That he knew when he referenced how many oil refineries had shut down. Some 60 oil refineries had shut down in the previous 5 years. And he said Petrotrin and Trinidad and Tobago was not immune from that situation, meaning Petrotrin was not immune from shutting down. What was he telling the country then? It is on Hansard for posterity. What message was he sending? Why did he go and do research to find out how many oil refineries had shut down in the previous 5 years around the world? And he felt the need to put that in his statement to be recorded on Hansard and to read in Parliament for those who listen throughout the country. Why did he mention that? Because he was telling you all it was a real possibility. So if they had won a second term and that was the eventuality, you can't say that you were not warned. He could have come and tell you, well, I mentioned it and I told you all in 2014 we were not immune and the time has now come. And it happened under the PNM. But now they're talking about you have to take the tough decisions. Tough decisions, hard decisions have to be made. And all of the UNC faithful, oh yes, we understand, leader. We know tough decisions have to be made because the PNM made such a mess of the economy and such a mess of the country. And we know tough decisions and we are prepared to shoulder the burden of the tough decisions. But when Keith Rowley was telling you all, we need to tighten your belt, band your belly. We have a couple hard years down the road. And we need to make some tough decisions to avoid this problem extending beyond 2 years. Or they didn't want to hear that. You had no patience. Rowley must go. Rowley, you know what he's doing. Rowley this, Rowley that. Told you all. But now, the last 8 months, you all have developed the patience of Job. So if you take the rest of this term and tough decisions, or you're prepared to pay tax and bring on the taxes, yes, we understand why we need to pay it. But maybe if you had accepted it, then we wouldn't be in the situation that we are in today. But unfortunately, the supporters and the complicity of the supporters of the UNC is what is going to fuel the, what's the word I'm looking for? The belief by the leadership. Once their supporters happy, they're good, you know. Once their supporters compliant, they're good. They couldn't care because, as Mrs. Prasad Visesa said, we don't need the support of the opposition for anything. And with her ministers making public utterances about, but because you vote for the PNM, you're not going to get this and you're not going to get that. It was the same thing in 2010 to 2015. I remember when Mr. Warner said, don't come to me and ask me for no road. You vote for PNM, don't ask me for nothing but no bridge. You voted for the PNM. We have Philip Edward Alexander telling you, pothole, take pothole. Don't come and complain. You're complaining the last 10 years about your shocks and your suspension. Well, my vehicle could take jamming. Because I have, thanks to you, I could afford to buy a brand new Land Cruiser, $1 million vehicle. I could go down, it's designed to go down in them hole. Yours, hard luck. But thanks anyway for the 70,000 plus a month. And all the other perks that comes with it. Right? The title of Minister, Honorable, Rubbish. Oh, Lord. Anyway. Right. Hatia says UNC knows everything. They just like to lie. You see here? I'll tell you, wicked. PF Cutters is asking if I mentioned Vincent Nelson losing his appeal on alleging kickback from Attorney General. I did not. I haven't yet had opportunity to read that story, but I will. Slimy Show is saying we in war. Slimy Show, the UNC will disagree with you, eh? All right? And you saying we in war, you're looking to get if you have a US visa, you're looking to get it pulled. The Prime Minister said behave yourself. Do not bad talk the US, okay? And according to your Minister of Homeland Security, you're spreading propaganda by saying that, okay? And he sanctions and supports the US taking away a visa. So if you are one of the 200,000 plus people that the Prime Minister mentioned, your visa, your 350,000, your visa is at risk, behave yourself. Let it not be that my program is the cause of you not being able to travel to the US again. Prime Minister say behave. Hands up, out, up, out. Remember that last time? Right. I don't say it. I don't want any US that visa. Let them rock so. Samisho says after his next life, he may get deported. Samisho, your Prime Minister said behave. You want to get a detention order? Next thing you see, special branch show up in front of your door. All right? They call the cyber unit and they find out who you are. And then next thing we hear, you end up like Olive Jack. You're spending the rest of the SOE in Golden Grove. Which study and nonsense. PF Cutters, I will read up on that story, and at the next live I will touch on it. I think this is the second appeal that Mr. Vincent has lost in respect of that matter. Now, the downside to that, right, is that Mr. Vincent had said he is going to withhold his testimony in respect of that matter involving Anna Ramlogan and Gerald Ramdeen, pending the outcome of his appeal. So if he loses and there are no more appeals and there is no money to be had, well, then there's nothing to lose. And then he would just simply say, well, to hell with Oli, I'm not testifying, in which case these two men will just walk free. Now, the DPP did say, when he dropped the charges against them last time, that he may, depending on how things go, reinstitute the charges later on, just as he did with David Lee. But again, so while Mr. Vincent losing his matters over and over speaks to the fact that the claim of innocence on the part of Mr. Ramlogan and Mr. Ramdeen is damaged, the reality is that they may never see a courtroom, the inside of a courtroom for those matters, for the simple reason that the main witness refuses to testify. And as long as Mr. Nelson is alive, I think based on how the Evidence Act goes, the court gives precedence to live testimony as opposed to any statement that he would have made, right? So if he is, so long as he's alive, that's the problem. If he doesn't decide to testify, and this government is not inclined to proceed with this matter in any way, in any event, right? Because it's their people. The man who now sits as the chairman of NGC and the best lawyer. So ain't no way the UNC has no interest in this matter whatsoever, right? They're not even talking about that. Slimy says they will have to lock him up. Slimy, we will have here what we will do. He says he's not in Trinidad. You all don't want me down there. Man, come true now, man. Come true. We'll start a GoFundMe to bail you out if they lock you up. But we don't want Christy Nome to deport you. So careful what you say. All right. So I think that's it for today, folks. have a couple other issues I wanted to touch on, but it's almost 5 o'clock. And I had somewhere I was supposed to be the PNM's annual children's Christmas party. And that would have started some time ago. And I did indicate I wanted to put in an appearance as MP. Just goes to show. Yeah. You see. Crime and murders are down because of the SOE. Both UNC and PNM have to take credit. Winston, you have fever? You saw the that's not, as you mentioned that. Let me see. Have you seen the number of home invasions that have been taking place recently, Winston? I see Canadian vlogger Christmas List is instructing the government of the day to drop the charges against him and apologize. Otherwise, in order to avoid him suing for millions of dollars. All right, so he's given an ultimatum to the current administration: drop the charges against me and apologize publicly. Otherwise, I will sue for millions. Well, all right. You go through. Man 70 attacked and robbed near U.S. Embassy. So, let me see. 63-year-old home invasion in Belmont. Criminal wears Santa Claus mask. A 63-year-old man was tied up, beaten, and robbed by 3 intruders. Apparently, the intruders didn't get the memo that stand your ground is now low. So, you're supposed to stop home invasions. There's another one. So where is it? I know I saved quite a few of them. But anyway. Kurt Dalzin says 19 murders, 19 and 21. So that's almost 1 murder per day for the month of December. 1 a day. Trinidad and Tobago. Chamrich is saying, what was the food card distribution during this same time last year, since we were suffering under the previous government? Exactly, the last administration would have given out the same amount of food cards, 250. The problem now, as I said before, is that the slip of paper with the pin, it was so light that a lot of people who got the food cards are unable to use it because, and it's always a problem. Always a problem. Back in for Diwali, when they gave us 6-day food cards to distribute for Diwali, it was the same thing. People were complaining they went to use the cards, it's not working, and then First Citizens had to intervene and fix the problem. Now they print these things, it's the same problem. Mere days before Christmas, people who saw a ray of hope with this food card, right? Ringing on my phone. Tell me they can't use it because they can't. So I have to in the morning, but I don't know what could be done. Otherwise, they will just either wait until after Christmas to benefit from that food card. And it's unfortunate. The little thing that they're giving the people and the others suffer them too, by. People excited, they're looking forward to that. I'm told by my office staff, if you see how happy some people were when they get a call and then they showed up in the office, because all they told them was that the MP has selected you for food support. So they came thinking they were coming to get a hamper, and then they saw that they got a food card and they were so happy. And some of them, they said one old lady came and she started to cry, and so, but joy was short-lived. Anon says it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas murders. Yes. Yep. But it's been, they said 6 months they would present a crime plan. It's been 7.5 months and no crime plan yet. So let's see what's going to happen at the end of this state of emergency. Because they don't want to start off the year with a bang. Speaking of bang, did you all get your, normally allowed, just remember you're only allowed to burst your fireworks or set off your fireworks between 11:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. on December 31st. All right? It doesn't say anything about Christmas. Don't worry about. Okay? Don't do any nonsense and then you end up with a charge. because the charge is significant. I think it's $250,000, right? And some imprisonment. So behave all yourself. Don't say I didn't tell you. Winston is saying, I did not say there was no crime and murders, but crime and murders are down because of the SOE by both PNM and the UNC. Chamron says, concept of a crime plan. That's exactly right. Concepts of a crime plan. They're still trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, they will be having a very, very happy Christmas. I heard the Prime Minister say she can't wait to go home and cook her Christmas food and bake her ham and make her pastels and all of these different things. Yeah. And so all of those who were in opposition last year, this year, they're having a very, 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 very Merry Christmas with their new salaries, their new vehicles. All right. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of citizens who were at this time last year employed are no longer so. Many of them are no longer so. And all the government keep giving them is Maggie and Maggie and more Maggie. Yeah, we come up with a program. The Prime Minister will announce it in the budget. Budget come, budget gone, nothing from the Prime Minister, no program. Now you come with this thing and you get people excited, you hire 220 people, sold. She always have who. Folks, we will chat again soon. UNC want to make money off fireworks. Why they didn't come with silent fireworks? The Minister of Homeland Security said that they will look into that a little later on. When you will understand the only way to stop crime is to improve the economic conditions of the people, then you will understand crime plans. But Slimy Show, do not forget that when the PNM was in power, the UNC was saying the same thing. They were saying that poverty was the cause for crime. And because the government was oppressing the people and people were suffering is why there was the increase in crime. Now they come to tell you a different story is because of the narco traffickers and the borders porous, and it's because the drugs that are coming in the country to these boats that the US is destroying, that is what was causing the crime. And now that the boats have been blown up, crime is down so that it has been effective. So it's not poverty again. When the PNM was in power, it was poverty. Now the UNC in power is not because of poverty, it's because of the porous borders. But yet still, the Coast Guard don't have diesel for their vessels. UNC beat up on the PNM for that. We hear that the Coast Guard can't do patrols because they don't even have diesel. And the robots used to be jumping on a boat and going down the islands and only filming and showing you, look how all the vessels park up there because they don't have diesel. The other day, Makila Pandey went down to Ikakas, right? And she was showing us one of the vessels that they have. And she was speaking to a member of the Coast Guard under conditions of anonymity. And he said that they don't have diesel. 8 months later, no diesel. But the PNM bad. The PNM wicked. Slimy Show, so where can we get you? On you say, follow the Slimy Show on Workers' Rights 868. What is your handle on YouTube? Please let us know. Let me take a peep at your program. Oh, and by the way, behave all yourself because Dr. Rowley is now a viewer of my podcast. He indicated such to me at the funeral for Freddie Ferreira. All right, so don't be surprised if one of these days you see him jump in the chat. Okay. So let me show you and tell me what's your handle on YouTube. I want to know so I can check you out. So folks, if I don't speak to you all before Thursday, enjoy your Christmas festivities. Please keep safe. All right. Don't do anything that the rest of us would not do. Everything in moderation. And I hope that every one of you here who view my podcast, that you all would have a decent Christmas, that you would have a full table, more than enough for you and your family, and that you might be able to share with the less fortunate. All right. And yeah, I will be heading up to Paramin to have lunch with my family, my Paramin family. Yeah, and then on Friday, I will be relaxing for my birthday. Yes, it's that time again of the year. So enjoy it. Merry Christmas to you all. I will certainly chat with you all again before the new year. Yes, Michael, Boxing Day. So we will chat again before the new year. All right. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let me see how much of the PNM children's Christmas party I can take in. Thank you so much, MH. Thank you, Michael. PF Cutter says Christmas celebration start the 25th and ends on the 6th of January. It does not end Christmas night or Boxing Day. Correct. So that's Lewa, I think, as they call it in Paramin. Right? So Christmas officially ends on January 6th. That is correct. I know my predecessor, Lisa Morris Julian, she was big into Lewa. All right. In fact, I think she used to have her Christmas party for the kids in January. Thank you all so much for your greetings. Stay safe, and we will chat again soon. All right, take care. At the Slimy Show. All right, so I'm going to pull you up, and let me see how I jump in your chat if I find you're bordering on deportation or a detention order. Thank you so much, and the best Prime Minister this country ever had was Keith Rowley, indeed. And Patrick Manning. I put Mr. Manning up there too. So thank you all for the greetings. We will chat again soon. All right. Take care and enjoy the rest of it.